Sorry. I started the recording now only. I am saying that now we are doing, after the group accounting, the other IAS IFRS. If the time permit, we will be doing one group accounting question further before 8 if possible. And different IAS IFRS question I am doing. First we are doing 7 number. The following statement of financial position relates to K group. Relating to K group. So non-current assets, yes, thank you. Property, plant and equipment, goodwill, other intangible assets, financial assets. Trade receivable, other receivable, cash and cash equivalents. Then the share capital, other reserves, retained earning, non-current, long-term, deferred tax, employee benefits, total non-current liabilities, current tax, trade and other payables, total current liability, total equity and liabilities. I am reading the adjustment. What is the question is about? Discuss the conceptual basis for recognition of deferred tax. Calculate the provisions for deferred tax at 30th June 2016 after any necessary adjustments to the financial statements, showing how the provision for deferred taxation would be dealt with in the financial statement. Coming. For deferred taxation. Once again, calculate the provision for deferred tax at 30th June 2016 after any necessary adjustments to the financial statements, showing how the provision for deferred taxation would be dealt with in the financial statement. Assuming that any adjustment do not affect current tax, candidates should briefly discuss the adjustment required to calculate the provisions for deferred tax. The second question is huge marks. First one is technical type. Again, I am reading the second one. Calculate the provisions for deferred tax at 30th June 2016 after any necessary adjustments to the financial statements, showing how the provision for a deferred taxation would be dealt with in the financial statement. How the provision for a deferred taxation would be dealt with in the financial statement. Assuming that any adjustment do not affect current tax. They are not going to affect current tax, they are only going to affect deferred tax. Candidates should briefly discuss the adjustment required to calculate you need to briefly discuss why you are doing that. You need to show the calculations. You need to show the effect on the financial statement. You need to, there is no change in the current tax, and whatever treatment you are doing, whatever you want to say, you need to briefly explain that also. Okay. So this entire question is on IAS 12. So when we discussed IAS 12 basically says, in your books of accounts, if anybody is using audio, please, I'm not getting where somebody's audio is used. Otherwise, the voice clarity will not be there. Surojit, you are. ठीक है भाई. Yes, no issue. Okay, good. So I was saying that deferred tax or a taxation story is mainly saying that when you are preparing your books of accounts, you are recording your income and expenses. The same rule doesn't apply for paying income tax to government. The government is all over the world doing big nautanki. They consider some of the items as cash basis, some even though received in advance, then also it is an income. So government income tax rules are different than the taxation rules, than the accounting rules. So it is a problem that whether we should show tax expense on accounting income or we should show tax expense on taxable income. That is, the tax which we are paying to government should be the tax expense, or if our accounting income is different, then we should show the tax expense based on accounting income. The accounting body all over the world think that showing the tax expense based on accounting income is logical. Because otherwise, why we prepare accounts? Why not income tax and accounts becomes common? So we will be recording the tax expense in the books of accounts based on accounting income. Now, it is not that if you can say tuition fees in a year is X amount, then the accounting income will not be considering X and the taxable income will not be considering X. Both will consider X. Then what are the reasons for differences between accounting income and taxable income? Now don't go into tax because I don't have good knowledge of taxation. Whatever the tax statements are there will be given in the question. But whatever may be the reason, what are the areas, what are the reason that your accounting income is different than the taxable income? Whether that difference is temporary or permanent. Temporary does not mean that the difference is only for 1 year. Maybe it is for 5 years, 10 years. But for the time being, it is not the same way treated in the Income Tax Act. Later on, it will be treated. So that is treated as temporary difference. And for a temporary difference, if accounting income is more or less, we will be recording tax based on accounting income. We will be recording tax expense based on accounting income. Say for example, I am recording depreciation on this computer, laptop, camera in the books of accounts. Now the depreciation is there in the Income Tax Act also. In the books of accounts, I am following a straight line method. But in the Income Tax Act, it is reducing balance method. In the books of accounts, I am doing depreciation 10%. In the Income Tax Act, it is 20%, whatever. Ultimately, the entire cost of the asset will be depreciated in the books of accounts and in the Income Tax Act. Maybe the amount, the timing is different. But if the computer value 1 lakh, that will be depreciated in books of accounts and that will be depreciated in Income Tax Act. So because of depreciation amount being different, because of that the accounting income and taxable income is different. The tax expense we will record in the books of accounts based on accounting income. If I am recording depreciation on 1,10,000 in books, but in Income Tax Act I am recording 20,000, 20%. So my accounting income is reducing by 10,000 expense, depreciation expense. But my taxable income is reducing by 20,000 depreciation expense. So my taxable income is lower. On my taxable income, I will be paying tax. But my accounting income is 10,000 higher. Because I have recorded depreciation in the year only 10,000. Whereas in Income Tax Act, it is 20,000. So in the books of accounts, my accounting income is 10,000 more. On this 10,000, I will record a tax expense in the books of accounts named as deferred tax. The tax which I am not paying now, my accounting income is more, but my taxable income is 10,000 lower. But in future, when the depreciation will be considered 20. So after 4 or 5 years, there will not be any depreciation in Income Tax Act on this computer. But in the books of accounts, still depreciation will be there. So presently for 4 or 5 years, the taxable income is lower. So I am paying less tax. Accounting income is higher. But I need to record tax expense based on accounting income. The tax which I will pay in future, which I am not paying now, which I will pay to government in future, that is treated as a deferred tax expense and a liability. IFRS says that the deferred tax calculation based on balance sheet approach, not based on income approach. If 1 lakh is the computer, the value of computer in the balance sheet in accounts is 90,000 after 10,000 depreciation. but the tax bill value is 1 lakh minus 20, which is 80,000. Because in the income tax, there is 20,000 depreciation value 80. So accounting carrying value of assets or liability in the books, carrying value of asset 90,000, but the tax base value is 80,000. The carrying value is greater by 10,000. When the carrying value of assets is greater than the tax base value, and that difference is temporary, then on the difference deferred tax liability, on the difference deferred tax expense. Expense will be going to PL account, and it is not paid now, it will be paid after 4 or 5 years. So that will become a deferred tax liability. When you are paying lower tax, when your accounting income is more, when your tax base asset value is less than the carrying value is more, deferred tax liability, deferred tax expense will arise. There can be 10-15 items which are creating deferred tax liability and expense. There may be 10-15 items which are creating deferred tax asset. Asset means the carrying value of assets is 80, but the tax base value is 90. You have recorded 20,000 depreciation in books, but Income Tax Act only 10,000. So income, as per Income Tax Act, is higher. You have paid tax, but that tax you don't need to pay in future. When in the books of accounts you don't need to charge a depreciation, then your accounting income will be more. Presently your accounting income is less. So you are recording deferred tax income and assets. The deferred tax liability or expense will be adjusted in the PL account in calculating tax expense. The tax expense in the books of accounts is current tax plus deferred tax, plus or minus deferred tax. If there is a deferred tax liability, it is an expense, current tax plus deferred tax liability. If it is a deferred tax asset, it is an income minus deferred tax asset. Basically, the increase or decrease in the deferred tax will be adjusted with the current tax that will be shown as an expense in the PL account. When in 1 year there is a deferred tax liability arises, then after few years, this liability will reverse. The payment to government is a current tax, but the deferred tax liability which we have recorded will be reversed. Presently, deferred tax liability is an expense. When it will reverse, it will become an income. Presently, deferred tax asset is an income. When it will reverse, it will become an asset. It will become an money. It will become an expense. So we actually say current tax plus deferred tax liability arises minus deferred tax asset arises minus deferred tax liability reversed plus deferred tax asset reversed. That net figure will be recorded as an expense in the PL account, and the deferred tax balance will be recorded in the balance sheet under non-current assets or non-current liability. It's a separate heading before non-current and current के बीच में. Similarly, in the asset side, between non-current and current के बीच में. Now, in my case, Saraf Academy, there may be 4 or 5 items creating deferred tax liability, 2-3 items creating deferred tax asset. I will calculate net figure because I am as per Indian Company Income Tax Act 1961 jurisdiction. My every income is taxable and all that based on income tax of India. So I will not be recording tax assets and liability separately, net figure. But if I will say that I have some income from India, some income from US, some income from UK, there are 3 different jurisdictions, and the income or losses in India are going to be calculated based on Indian Income Tax Act, but US income and all that based on US tax, then the US tax deferred tax asset or liability cannot be adjusted with the Indian income deferred tax asset or liability. It has to be the same jurisdiction. It should have intermingle, it can be set off. Then, so if multinational company, they have deferred tax asset and liability separately in the books, but Saraf Academy type of company, no separate deferred tax asset, it's one single figure. what is the net amount payable or receivable. For solving questions in exams, we have to follow only one principle. What is the opening balance of deferred tax? What is the closing balance of deferred tax? Difference between opening and closing going in PL, and the closing figure will be recorded in the balance sheet. Simple. For every question in exam, whether it's a one line, whether it's a big question like this, opening balance of deferred tax, closing balance of deferred tax, difference in the deferred tax, that will be going in PL account, closing balance in the balance sheet. Story finish. In practical life, if you are in the accounting work, in the accounting department, a controller or all that, you must be getting the deferred tax adjustment every year. In the question, maybe the opening balance is also not given. You need to calculate the opening deferred tax. You need to calculate the closing. Then the difference automatically becomes the loss or gain to be charged in PL. One thing we need to remember while solving question, the carrying value of assets more than the tax base value on the difference, deferred tax liability. बस उसके बाद सब याद रहेगा. If the carrying value of liability is more than the income tax base liability, assets liability. So liability, carrying value of liability more than the tax base liability, deferred tax asset, and so on. The current tax, whatever is your taxable income on that, the tax which you need to pay to government. So current tax plus minus deferred tax will give you tax expense. There is one more thing. Whenever we are recording current tax also, suppose for March 2023, already over, income tax return I have not yet filed, but I have already paid advance taxes based on my income. मैंने income tax return अभी नहीं लगाया है, लेकिन based on my income of March 2023, I have already paid advance taxes to government. Already pay कर चुका हूँ. Advance क्यों बोल रहे हैं? When it is for March 23, why it is advance? Because income tax exact amount will be set by government only. When I will file the income tax return, then they will say that this is the amount. So whatever I am paying, that is treated as advance. You can say that is current tax. But then if the government will say more amount than whatever I paid, or government may say less also, then in that case, whatever expense I recorded as a current tax and the amount which I am paying to government is different, then that difference is called under or over provision. I made a provision, made an estimate, based on that payment done, that estimate was something. But when the income tax return filed and the government did scrutiny and all that, and then the government is saying some different figure, that is no relation with deferred tax. Your estimate was wrong. Your calculation wrong means it's not intentionally, unintentionally also. So whatever you have recorded as an expense and whatever finalization done by government, that is called under or over provision. If I recorded in last March 2022, expense in the PL account 1 lakh, but the government is saying that 1,05,000. Okay? So 5,000 when I am knowing in the next year, I will record 5,000 as an expense in March 23 only. That is treated as under provision. I recorded 1 lakh, government is saying 1,05,000, so 5,000 is under provision. So current tax plus minus under over provision plus minus deferred tax will be the tax expense in PL account. In the balance sheet, whatever the current tax, that is your provisions for tax liability, and deferred tax net figure will be under non-current assets or non-current liability as the case may be. And current tax, which is provisions for tax, plus minus under over provision of earlier year, plus minus deferred tax will be the tax expense in the PL account. That is called income tax expense in the PL account. The deferred tax calculation is cumbersome. In practical life also, in exam also. The process need to follow opening balance, closing balance, difference in PL, and closing balance in the balance sheet. That's the simple process. तो अगर आपको इसको डिफाइन करना है, conceptual basis for recognition of deferred taxation, you need to explain deferred tax liability and expense. You need to explain deferred tax assets and income. If you are thinking that you are not in a position to explain properly, Because when you read their answer, they will be saying deductible temporary differences for deferred tax assets. They will be saying taxable temporary differences for deferred tax liability. मेरे को ऐसे लिखना नहीं आता है. I know in my own language with examples I can explain. पूरा नंबर मिलेगा. आप अगर उनका याद करते रहेंगे, मैं तो, if you ask me, the definition of deferred tax assets and liability I don't like at all. Because the way it is written like a jalebi, it's very difficult to mug up the wordings and then maybe you can, I cannot. मेरे को अपने हिसाब से अपना डेफर्ड टैक्स एक्सप्लेन, इतना नहीं बोलना है 7 मार्क्स के लिए. एक पैराग्राफ में आप बोलेंगे द अकाउंटिंग इनकम एंड टैक्सेबल इनकम आर डिफरेंट. व्हाई? बिकॉज जनरली इन बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स वी फॉलो प्योर एक्रूवल प्रिंसिपल, but in income tax act we follow cash basis also. Generally in books of accounts the depreciation is not fixed, it is based on your understanding estimation, but the depreciation in income tax act is fixed, which assets, what rate and all that. So there are many clauses which are differently treated in income tax act. So the accounting income and taxable income are different. We record on the basis of taxable income the tax expense in the accounts is current tax. But when the accounting income is different and the reason for the difference is temporary, that is presently accounting income or later on it will be less, then we record deferred tax. When the carrying value of an asset is more than the tax base value of an asset, on the difference we record deferred tax liability and expense. When there is a carrying value of assets less or maybe liability it is more, then we record deferred tax asset. For recording deferred tax asset, more surety, more confirmation required. Like if you are suffering losses in the business, on the loss you will save tax. When there will be income in future. So relating to income in future, there should be confirmed orders. There are existing orders from the customers. Just as a projection, you can't record deferred tax asset. So you need to have more surety while recording deferred tax asset, but relating to deferred tax liability or expense, a provision, or I mean to say that more normal estimation is allowed. That you will write. And you can say that the tax expense in the PL account is current tax plus minus deferred tax plus minus under and over provision. आप अपने हिसाब से बताइए, और आपको अगर टाइम मिल रहा है, आपको कोई एग्जांपल लेकर बताना है, जैसे मैंने बोला 10,000 डेप्रिसिएशन लेकर बता दीजिए, हो गया. एग्जामिनर इज कंसर्न दैट डू यू नो द कॉन्सेप्ट. They are not concerned exactly comma full stop language you are writing, because that you can never write. Maybe I am not convent educated. आप बोलेंगे आप convent educated है, फिर भी आप वो लैंग्वेज जो deferred tax liability और assets के लिए इन्होंने लिखा होगा, कोई नहीं लिख पाएगा. तो आप वैसा सोचेंगे तो फिर नंबर किसी को भी नहीं मिलेगा. Need to be practical कि मेरे को क्या लिखना है. For that reason when I taught in the class last 3 months, I said what? Practice in writing. You cannot practice just at the time of exam. कि मान लीजिए क्वेश्चन है 10 है, 2 को लिख कर करिए. डेफर्ड टैक्स को लिखिए, देखिए क्या है. मान लीजिए कंफ्यूजन है, मेरे को दिखाइए कि मैंने ऐसा लिखा है, नंबर मिलेगा कि नहीं. अभी बाद में दिखा दीजिए, कोई बात नहीं है. नॉर्मली आप वो लैंग्वेज नहीं लिख सकते व्हाट दे आर राइटिंग. मैं भी नहीं लिख सकता, आपको क्या बोलूं. Now the second part. For second part we need to go through all the adjustments and all that, because then only we can see क्या होएगा, प्लस माइनस डेफर्ड टैक्स क्या होएगा, सब देखना पड़ेगा. ऊपर में बैलेंस शीट इज गिवन, एसेट्स एंड लाइबिलिटीज आर गिवन फॉर 38 जून. ठीक है, फॉर 38 जून it is given. Now what are the adjustments? The following information is relevant to the above statement of financial position. The financial assets are classified as fair value through other comprehensive income. The financial assets are classified as fair value through other comprehensive income. Which are the assets which can be classified as a financial assets under the category of fair value through other comprehensive income? Can anybody give example? The financial assets are where you will be getting cash or where you will be getting other financial asset. The financial assets are monetary. The financial assets are investment in securities of any other company, shares, debentures, bonds, loans given to anybody. Receivables, you have sold goods on credit. Receivables, whether it is a financial asset. Whether it is a financial asset.
Yes.
Because you are going to receive cash against the receivable. A contractual cash you are going to receive. It is normally recorded as held to maturity. Because we will be getting the receivables money when the maturity will come. So all these are financial instruments, financial assets. Usme other comprehensive, if I have invested in shares and now I am not demarcating them as a fair value through PL, because that is a default category. I am not saying that I am doing trading of shares and I want to record as fair value through OCI. I can. In case of investment in bonds, debentures, government securities or anything, interest bearing, if there is a contractual right to receive cash, I have, and I am not going to sell in between, then in that case held it to maturity. But if I may sell to generate higher income because of the changes in the interest rates, then I will be saying fair value through OCI. But if I am doing trading in these types of debt instruments, then it is fair value through PL. So it can be equity shares, it can be debentures of any other company, government security or anything. The financial, वो लिखना नहीं है, मैं ऐसे ही बात कर रहा हूं, just memorizing the financial instrument chapter. The financial assets are classified as fair value through other comprehensive income, but are shown in the above statement of financial position at their cost on 1st July 2015, but are shown in the above statement of financial position at their cost on 1st July 2015, including transaction cost of 0.5 million. The market value of the assets is 10.5 million on 30th June. The taxation is payable on the sale of the assets. So we are saying that this is what do you say? Maybe a shares or maybe a debt instrument is there, which we are recording as fair value through OCI. And we have recorded it as a 0.5 million expenditure as a part of the cost of the asset. Then the market value at the end of the year is 10.5 million on 30th June. The tax will be payable when we will sell. But in the books of accounts, we will record gain based on the change in the fair value. The gain we will be recording under OCI because it is financial instruments, financial assets recorded under OCI. So when you are incurring a transaction cost, whether it will become cost of the asset or whether the transaction cost will be debited to PL account.
It will be a cost of the asset.
That means when we have purchased this financial asset, we have considered 0.5 million as a cost of the asset. So that was correct only. There is no problem. The financial assets are classified as fair value through other comprehensive income, but are shown in the above statement of financial position on 1st July, including transaction cost of 0.5 million. The market value of the asset is 10.5 million and the taxation is payable. But on the balance sheet, how much is the financial asset given? Anything given? Financial asset, 9,000. Financial asset, 9,000. They have given in the balance sheet on 30th June 2016. They are saying that in this 9,000, the 0.5 million means 500 is included as a transaction cost. The market value of this is 10.5 million. Then why we are not recording the market value 10.5 million? Are we preparing the financial statement correctly when we are classifying this as fair value through other comprehensive income?
In balance sheet, for financial position, it is recorded in fair value. That is market.
No, if it is recorded at fair value, then this is 30th June 2016. and the upper balance sheet is also on 30th June 2016, then why this figure is not 10,500? Why this figure is not 10,500? क्या भाई?
Because it is written that it is cost, financial asset is written.
Maybe recorded as cost.
But still they are saying that we are following fair value through other comprehensive income. When we are following fair value through other comprehensive income, then we should be recording the fair value in the balance sheet and the gain should be recorded in OCI, but we have not done that. So what we need to do?
So the increase need to be bifurcated in two parts. More overheads cost is which are to PNL, the remaining part is which are to here. This fair value.
But that you don't know, sir. Based on the amortization, what value? Because you don't know whether this is debt. Because in case of debt, we studied that. In case of debt, first of all, you follow amortization principle, effective rate, you find the value and then you compare with the fair value, then that will be going to OCI. We don't know this is debt, we don't know this is equity. Surojit, that is not known to us. It is just written financial asset. Not written whether it is equity, whether it is debt. But whether it is equity or a debt. Yeah.
They have wrongly recorded it in cost, but it should have been as per fair value.
Fair value.
0.5.
So 10,500 will be coming in the balance sheet for financial asset. And the 1,500 will be coming in OCI. We will say that only. But how this is going to affect the deferred tax? How this is going to affect the taxation?
Deferred tax liability.
Why?
The income will be more of 1.5 million.
But we should not be saying in the exam based on income approach, based on balance sheet approach. In the balance sheet, the financial instrument asset value is 10,500. But in the tax base, it is still 9,000. Because in the tax, it will be recorded income when you will sell. So the tax base is still 9,000. So the difference 1,500 asset value more. So that will create a deferred tax liability and expense. But this deferred tax expense will not be coming in PL account. Because you are recording the gain under OCI. So the deferred tax expense you will record under OCI only. For those items which come in PL account, their deferred tax will be in PL account. For those items which is coming in OCI, their deferred tax will be in OCI. So you need to say that there is a deferred tax liability on 1,500, whatever income tax rate they have given. With that, you will create a deferred tax liability and the expense will be recorded under OCI only. Since the gain is recorded under OCI, so the tax expense will also be recorded under OCI. Whether this will be coming in OCI as reclassified to PL or not. This is an item which is reclassified to profit or loss or not.
It is not clearly specified whether it is
Yes. अभी जो हम लोग ब्रेक के पहले बात किए थे वही चल रहा है कि अगर ये इक्विटी है तब तो रिक्लासिफाइड टू पीएल नहीं कर सकते, वहां स्पेसिफिकली लिखा हुआ है IAS 16 जैसे ट्रांसफर टू रिटेन्ड अर्निंग्स. बट अगर ये डेट है तो इन दैट केस रिक्लासिफाइड टू पीएल है. बाद में जब डेट को सेल करेंगे देन द डेफर्ड टैक्स, देन द OCI फिगर विल बी ट्रांसफर टू प्रॉफिट एंड लॉस अकाउंट. सो अभी हम लोग बोल नहीं सकते, एग्जाम में भी बोलना नहीं है, बिकॉज ये लोग केवल टैक्स का एडजस्टमेंट पूछे हैं. ये लोग नहीं बोल रहे कि वो अदर कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव ट्रांसफरेबल टू पीएल है कि नहीं, वो नहीं बोल रहे हैं वो लोग. ठीक है ना. यानी कि ये फर्स्ट पॉइंट का एडजस्टमेंट हुआ कि सिंस दिस इज अ फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट फॉर माने recognized on the basis of fair value, the fair value is not yet recognized. The fair value gain is 9,000 to 10,500, which is 1,500. So because of that, the carrying value will become 10,500. But in the Income Tax Act, the tax base is still 9,000. Income cannot be recorded till the time it is not sold out. So on that 1,500, there will be deferred tax liability at the income tax rate, whatever they have given. And it will be a part of OCI only because the gain is a part of OCI. So tax on the OCI will be coming as a part of OCI only. आपको वो एक्सप्लेनेशन देना और कैलकुलेशन तो बाद में सबका एक साथ दिखाएंगे. Getting? There are some other things we are discussing which is not part of this answer. Financial instruments कौन सा other comprehensive होता है, इसको हम लोग ट्रांसफरेबल टू पीएल, रिक्लासिफाइड टू पीएल, नहीं वैसे ही बात कर रहे हैं, जस्ट फॉर अंडरस्टैंडिंग पर्पस, नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ द आंसर. Then comes the second point, the stated. You did not understand what? Because I can say the same thing again, there is no problem. We discussed that when there is a asset which is fair value through PL, then in that case the transaction cost goes in PL account. But if there is an asset for which we are following amortization principle or fair value through OCI, then in that case the transaction cost is added to the asset value. So this 0.5 million is just given as a googly no use, because they have said that they have included this in the transaction cost as a part of the cost. It is just that 10,500 should be the value, including this the value in the balance sheet is 9,000, so we need to record 1,500 per deferred tax. This 0.5 million is correctly treated the way it should be. Suppose this 0.5 million, they will say that they have recorded in PL account. Then you will say that the retained earning need to be improved, the PL account need to improve by 0.5 million. It is not an expense. The asset value will increase by 0.5 million. So the asset value after this becomes 9,500, and then 10,500, there is 1,000 change. So then it becomes 10,500. वैसा बोलते, but वैसा जरूरत नहीं पड़ा, because they are saying that they have correctly recorded 0.5 million. That should be added with the asset value, that is already added with the asset value. As we discussed, whenever the carrying value of assets is more than the tax base value, then there will be deferred tax liability and expense. Here the carrying value of assets becomes 10,500 and the tax base value of the financial instrument is 9,000. So the difference, the carrying value is higher by 1,500. So on 1,500 there will be deferred tax liability and expense. Okay na? No problem. The stated interest rate for long-term borrowing is 8%. The stated interest rate for the long-term borrowing is 8%. We will see what is long-term borrowings and all that. On the long-term borrowing, the interest rate is 8%. The loan of 10 million represents a convertible bond, which has a liability component of 9.6 million. And an equity component of 0.4 million. The bond was issued on 30th June 2016. 30th June 2016 is the end of the year. The stated interest rate on the bond is 8%. The loan of 10 million represents convertible bond with a liability of 9.6 and an equity component of 0.4 million. The bond was issued on 30th June. So in the liability, non-current liability, long-term borrowings 10,000 is there. They are saying that it is a convertible bond. That means we have given the option to the investor that you can take shares or you can take cash. Based on that, they are saying that the liability component is 9.6, 9,600 and the equity component 0.4, 400. The bond was issued just now. It is not 1 or 2 years back, just now. The loan is taken, the bond is issued just at the end of the year. So, we discussed that whenever we are issuing any security which is convertible into shares, convertible bond, then it has the characteristics of debt and equity both. Because if the investors will go for cash, then it is a financial liability. If the investors will go for shares, then it is equity. What the investor will do, we don't know. Then in that case, we say that when the company issue these types of bonds, then in that case, normally they give lower rate of interest to the investor because they are giving some additional benefit to the investor in the form of conversion option. So in these types of bonds, we need to record initially debt and equity in two different parts. The debt part is what? Whatever will be our cash obligations, assuming everybody will redeem in cash. Then whatever our interest and the cash redemption payment, we will find out the present value based on the normal interest rate in the market. The stated interest rate on the bond is 8%. What is the normal interest rate in the market? I don't know. But the normal interest rate definitely greater than 8%. So based on the normal interest rate, we will be calculating the present value of whatever payment we are going to do against the bond. Then the present value is coming 9.6 million. That is treated as financial liability component. And whatever money you are getting extra, you are getting 10 million, whereas the financial liability should be 9.6. Then balance 0.4 million is treated as equity component. So the accounting entry for this should be cash account debit, financial liability credit and equity credit. But they have recorded entire 10 million as financial liability. So the financial liability will be reducing from 10 million minus 10,000 minus 400, which is 9,600. And in the equity, you will increase equity by 400. You will rectify. So your financial liability is 9,600. Your equity is 400. What is the tax base value? You have taken a debt of 10,000. The tax base value is 10,000 only. This is only accounting concept that you will bifurcate the total amount received into two parts, which is equity and debt component. But in the income tax act, loan liya hai, loan hai bhai. So there is a financial liability in the books of 9,600. But the tax base liability is 10,000. The financial liability in the books is 9,600. The tax base of the liability is 10,000. On the difference 400 into tax rate, whether there will be deferred tax liability or a deferred tax assets. Whether this is a temporary difference or permanent difference. Whether this is temporary difference or permanent difference. Ultimately in the books, 0.4 million equity and 9.6 million debt will exhaust. Whether the investor will take shares or cash, we don't know. And in the income tax sector, anyhow 10 will exhaust. So this is very much temporary. Now there will be deferred tax liability. You need to remember, if the assets value as per books more than tax base value, deferred tax liability. If the liability value as per books more than the tax base value of liability, deferred tax asset, but this is ulta. The carrying value of liability in the books is 9,600, but the tax base is 10,000. The carrying value is lower, so this will create deferred tax liability. Vaisali, you are correct. On 400, whatever will be the income tax rate will be creating deferred tax liability, which will be settled when this redemption will take place. When the redemption will take place, the 0.4 million from books will settle. So ultimately it will settle. It is a temporary difference. So for the time being on 400, there will be deferred tax liability.
So why did you say that the market rate will definitely be higher than stated interest rate?
मैंने जब पढ़ाया था तो मैंने बोला था कि दो कंपनी है. मान लीजिए एक सराफ एकेडमी है और एक और है, और वो दोनों कंपनी एक तरह का बिजनेस एक जैसे हैं. दोनों कंपनी बॉन्ड इशू कर रहे हैं. आप इन्वेस्टर हो, तो मेरी कंपनी बॉन्ड इशू कर रही है, इंटरेस्ट रेट 10% है, उसके बाद रिडम्पशन है, कन्वर्जन नहीं है. और दूसरी कंपनी बॉन्ड इशू कर रही है, इंटरेस्ट रेट 10%. आप किसका बॉन्ड लोगे? आप उसी का लोगे ना, क्योंकि आपको वहां 10% मिलेगा. लेकिन मेरी कंपनी साथ में बोल रही है कि मैं आपको शेयर्स भी दे सकता हूं, आपको बाद में रिडम्पशन के टाइम पे कैश लेना है, कैश लेना, और यू टेक शेयर्स. तो मेरी कंपनी आपको बेनिफिट भी देगी और ऊपर से इंटरेस्ट रेट भी 10% देगी. तो उसका बॉन्ड लेगा कौन? मैं तो आपको इंटरेस्ट कम ही दूंगा, इसीलिए ना क्यों मैं आपको बेनिफिट दे रहा हूं। सो इसीलिए मैंने बोला कि जब हम लोग का स्टेटेड रेट 8% है तो मार्केट का इंटरेस्ट रेट 8 से डेफिनेटली ज्यादा है। अदरवाइज हम ये ऑप्शन बॉन्ड होल्डर को क्यों देंगे, भाई तुम्हारा मर्जी होगा शेयर ले लेना। जब मार्केट में जो इंटरेस्ट रेट है हम उसको दे ही रहे हैं, देन व्हाई वी आर गोइंग टू गिव हिम एक्स्ट्रा बेनिफिट। व्हेन द मार्केट रेट इज मोर वी आर गिविंग लेस इंटरेस्ट, फॉर दैट रीजन वी आर गिविंग एडिशनल बेनिफिट, यू कैन टेक शेयर्स। ये रूल होता है। और दूसरी बात, अगर मार्केट में इंटरेस्ट रेट कम है तब तो आप प्रेजेंट वैल्यू लाओगे वो 10 से भी ज्यादा आ जाएगा। इफ यू कैलकुलेट इंटरेस्ट एट द रेट ऑफ 8% and you calculate present value at the rate of 5%, then to the value, present value will be greater than 10. आप accounting कैसे करोगे? When the rate is 8% and the present value you are calculating say at the rate of 10%, then the present value will be coming less than 10. So दोनों तरह से logic and financial calculation both way that the market rate is greater than 8%. Convertible bond those companies are issuing, they will always say we will be giving you lower interest because we are giving you one benefit to convert it into shares. So for that reason we are giving you lower interest. At the normal interest rate, the present value will be lower, that is the debt component. If you will not be giving the conversion option, then by issuing this bond we will not be getting 10. We will be getting 9.6 only. Why we are getting 10? 0.4 million extra, because we are saying them you can take shares, and for that reason 0.4 million is recorded as equity, है ना। एक एक बात सोचिए कि जब हम लोग पढ़ते थे तो कितना धीरे धीरे करके एक एक एग्जाम्पल लेते थे, वो एग्जाम्पल से उस लॉजिक को जस्टिफाई करते थे कि अकाउंटिंग ऐसा क्यों है। अभी क्या है कि वो लॉजिक मान लीजिए मैंने बोला, आप लोग कैसे ध्यान रहेगा, क्योंकि मैं तो ऐसे एग्जाम्पल लिया हूंगा, गारंटी जिंदगी भर से मैं ऐसे एग्जाम्पल लेता हूं कि आई गिव एग्जाम्पल फॉर दिस टाइप्स ऑफ इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स कि इफ देयर आर टू कंपनी सेम बिजनेस सेम रिस्क, वन कंपनी इज इशूइंग बॉन्ड अनदर कंपनी हुज बॉन्ड यू विल बाई, देन आई से दैट कि ये कंपनी आपको शेयर्स का ऑप्शन दे रही है। आप बोलेंगे हाँ बढ़िया है, लेकिन वो इंटरेस्ट कम देगी, ये तो नॉर्मल रूल है ना। सो वी विल बी क्रिएटिंग डेफर्ड टैक्स लायबिलिटी फॉर दिस। ये जितना हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं उतना एक्सप्लेनेशन लिखने का टाइम नहीं है। इट इज जस्ट यू नीड टू एक्सप्लेन द डेफर्ड टैक्स ट्रीटमेंट इन शॉर्ट, इन ब्रीफ दे हैव रिटन। इफ यू डू मोर एक्सप्लेनेशन you can't complete in 3 hours also. Now point number 3, the defined benefit plan had a rule change on 1st July 2015. Some changes in the defined benefit to employees. K estimate that of the past service cost of 1 million, 40% relates to vested benefits and 60% relates to benefits that will vest over the next 5 years from that date. So because of the changes in the employee benefits, 1 million is a past service cost. Out of 1 million, 40% is already relating to past, and the balance 60% is relating to future 5 years. The past service cost have not been accounted for. The past service cost have not been accounted for. Now in employee benefits, IS 19, what we discussed that suppose in a company 1000 employees are working. All these employees, when they will retire, then how they will run their life? Then maybe provident fund, maybe gratuity, maybe whatever type of benefits are going to be given to the employee. Those benefits are based on how long they will be servicing the company. At the time of retirement, what will be their salary? Based on that, they will be given the benefit for every complete year of service. But if somebody is of the age of 40 years, how long he will be there in the company? What will be the increment in the salary? Nobody knows. But then the company announced that based on this, we will be giving you the benefit. So one type of company is that they are following pure provident fund rule. They are deducting from your salary some amount and they are depositing to government account, which is provident fund account, is story finish. This is called a defined contribution plan. And there is another type of company who are saying that whatever money deducted from your salary, we will be giving you a particular return on this money. We are not giving this to government. We are maintaining this fund for your purpose. Most of the listed companies and most of the big companies are doing that. Defined benefit plan. Now in the defined benefit plan, suppose they said earlier, for every year of service, we will be giving you 2% benefit. But now they are saying that for every year of complete service, we will be giving you 2.5% of salary with retrospective effect. That means earlier we have recorded based on 2% the expense, but now we are saying based on 2.5%. Whether it is vested or not. We have not recorded 1 million, 40% vested, 60% will vest in next. That doesn't have any meaning. We are concerned that if the scheme which is now changed, if that scheme would have been there earlier, then the 1 million up till now the expense would have been more. 1 million up till now the expense would have been more. And we have not recorded that 1 million. So वो 1 million को हमें खर्चा लिखना है. So in the liability, they have not recorded this employee liability कहाँ? Employee benefit liability. Employee benefit liability is 4,000. It should be 5,000 based on the changes. And since it is relating to the past, it will reduce your earnings also. In case of, what I should say, income tax. Income tax says that आप ऐसे ये सब खर्चा फर्चा दिखाएंगे तब तो फिर हो लिया. Income tax says that when you will pay to the employee, we will be considering it as an expense. Income tax don't based on estimation. लेकिन मेरे को यहां पर income tax मालूम नहीं, because if we say provident fund deposited in government account, then provident fund तो income tax में भी खर्चा माना जाता है, बशर्ते it is paid. This is not paid to employee, but you are recording as an expense. In the income tax, whether it will be treated as an expense. If in income tax also it is treated as an expense, then so there is no difference. So when there is no difference, there is no deferred tax. I don't know this. I need to check. Whether as per income tax act, the liability will be 5,000 or it is 4,000. What do you think, Surojit? मेरे को भी नहीं मालूम है सच्ची में. That means you want to say that there will be difference of 1,000, है ना? Maybe. I don't know, sir. Because whether the income tax department will allow the, because when it is defined contribution, then contribution to the employee will be deducted as an expense in income tax act. But when it is defined benefit, and in that case there is a retrospective changes, then whether it will be treated as an expense in income tax act, मालूम नहीं है भाई. If it is income tax expense, then in that case there is no question of deferred tax, because 5,000 in books, 5,000 in income tax act, difference नहीं है. But if it is not treated as an expense in IT, so the liability in the IT is 4,000 only. So the difference 1,000 will be creating deferred tax, asset or liability. If 1,000 difference we will consider for deferred tax. Then whether, because the liability is more than the liability as per tax base. So for that reason deferred tax. एक बार हम लोग ESOP में पढ़े थे. ESOP में we discussed that the government will consider the ESOP as an expense for employee when the employee will be given the shares. Lekin this is not ESOP, because for that reason in the ESOP there is a deferred tax. But if it is a case of cash benefit we are going to give employee as arrangement and all that, then whether this will be allowed by income tax or not, don't know. मेरे को फीलिंग नहीं आ रहा है. मेरे को नॉर्मली ऐसा लग रहा है, आई थिंक देयर विल बी जीरो, बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट शुड ऑल्सो अलाउ the provident fund, whether it's a defined contribution or whether it's a defined benefit plan, the government should consider 1 million as an expense. So in the government also the liability will be 5. Because if government is not allowing this as an expense, then how can we say that in the government the balance is 4,000? Then to in the government account the balance is 0. Then to you should say the difference is 5,000 and 0, full 5,000. till the time the employee are not paid any compensation, then in that case it is not recorded as an expense in income tax. Then to in that case deferred tax will be 5,000 minus 0. Yes, Surojit.
Sir, how is this concept answering this? Suppose I am thinking, suppose if we demonstrate the subjectivity factor of
No, you will write wrong, then you will be marks, because अगर मैं लिखूंगा, मैं यहाँ लिखने वाला था कि 5,000 is the yes, tell me.
if I am with the exam hall, I will write that if the jurisdiction of this tax
You can't write like that. No, not allowed, sir. If you say that I am in the jurisdiction where this is allowed or not allowed, I don't think so they will accept your notion like this. Because they will not be writing the answer based on any particular jurisdiction. They will be saying one thing, that whether it is, because according to me, if 5,000 and 4,000, that is becoming illogical. Then to how come 4,000 is there in the Income Tax Act? When the 4,000 is not paid, then how come that is there? So मेरे हिसाब से deferred tax will be 5,000 minus 0. On 5,000 there will be deferred tax. Because income tax will consider when you will be paying gratuity and all that to employees. अब कोई ना कोई employee कभी ना कभी तो रिटायर होते रहता है. जब उसको पैसा देंगे तो खर्चा माना जाएगा. क्या लगता है? मालूम नहीं है. देखते हैं, आंसर देखेंगे भाई. Here I am also under confusion because I don't know. Because I am thinking that if the 4,000 is the income tax based liability, then why not 5,000?
Because mostly income tax is based upon payment basis.
मेरे को तो ऐसा लगता है. Yes, यार.
And accounts are based on actual.
Yes, accrual basis. So according to me, 5,000 to 0, full 5,000 will be subjective to deferred tax. But you cannot write that in my jurisdiction this is this, Surojit. They will not accept. Because they are not asking the students should be knowing the taxation rules. देखते हैं क्या लिखा है वो लोग, देखेंगे, आते हैं. The tax base of the asset and liability are same as their carrying amount in the statement of 30th June except for the following. For some of the item they are directly giving the value. Property, plant and equipment. The tax base value is this, the carrying value given on the top, trade receivable, other receivable, employee benefits. अरे ये तो easy हो गया यार, जमेला खत्म. So here there is no confusion now, Surojit. They are saying that as per the accounts your value is 5,000, but the tax base is 5,200. कोई गलती नहीं हो रहा है. हम लोग को इनकम टैक्स नहीं जानना. मैं सोचा यार कैसे जानूंगा मैं. So Surojit and everybody, they have said income tax base. Now why the income tax base is greater than, don't ask me. मेरे को नहीं मालूम है income tax भाई. Accounts में is it 5,000, but in the income tax act 5,200. So this is income tax base is more. For other items also they have given those differences will be creating deferred tax assets or liability. वो सीधा सीधी दे दिया. Other intangible assets were development cost which were all allowed for a tax purpose when the tax was incurred in 2015. Other intangible assets are all development cost. Other intangible assets, where is that? This 5,000. Other intangible assets are all development cost. So since they are development, they are capitalized. But they are allowed for tax purpose when the tax was incurred, cost was incurred. But in Income Tax Act, they are recorded as an expense. There is no value. For the other intangible assets, the accounting value is 5,000, but the tax value is laddu. Because in the tax, it is treated as expense. So on entire 5,000, there will be deferred tax liability. In the Income Tax Act, development is not asset. It's an expense. But in the books of accounts, IS 36, development expenditures are capitalized. So you have recorded this as an asset. But in Income Tax Act, tax base value is 0. So 5,000 minus 0. On entire 5,000, there will be deferred tax liability. Trade and other payables include an accrual for compensation to be paid to employee. This amount to 1 million and is allowed for taxation when paid. Trade and other payables include an accrual for compensation to be paid to employee. In the trade and other payables, 5,000, but as per Income Tax Act, this is 4,000. Because trade and other payables include accrual of 1,000, but this 1,000 will be allowed for taxation when paid. So in the Income Tax Act, there is no accounting for 1,000. The carrying value 5, tax base 4,000, the carrying value more. So deferred tax asset on this. Goodwill is not allowed for tax purpose in this jurisdiction. We discussed in IAS 12 relating to goodwill, there is no deferred tax. ये सब घुमा रहा है आपको. Relating to goodwill, because it may be temporary when you dispose of subsidiary and all that, but we don't record deferred tax on the goodwill. Goodwill is not allowed for tax purpose, neither goodwill creation, neither the allowed and all that. आपको goodwill से related deferred tax record नहीं करना है. Assume taxation is payable at 30%. Every year you calculate tax at the rate of 30%. So what you will do? You will start with you can say accounting figure, whatever figures are there. You will do the adjustment, say 1,500 added. So it will become carrying value, correct carrying value, compared with the tax base value, and one difference figure you will write for every item. For every item you calculate difference figure, a different difference. Now you calculate whether it is net figure is for a deferred tax assets or for a deferred tax liability, whatever. Then the net difference you calculate, on that you will calculate at the rate of 30%. The deferred tax is already given here 3,600. And your figure will be coming something, say deferred tax is 4,000 or 3,800, 3,900, whatever. So the difference will be further adjusted from retained earnings, and then the closing balance will be this. That you need to say. And for every item you need to give some explanations. Calculation अलग करेंगे, explanation अलग से लिखेंगे, better रहेगा. एक point के ऊपर we will be giving explanations that why we are doing this one, what we are doing, the liability and all that, और फिर एक साथ calculation करके net figure दिखाएंगे. यहां पर आपको employee benefits के बारे में कुछ नहीं सोचना है, because they have given employee benefits tax base value. No tension. We don't have to assume what is the tax rate in any jurisdiction. They have given you 5,200 value. But your value is 5,000, the difference is 200. How come 5,200 come? What is the income tax rule? I don't know and don't want to know also. आता ही नहीं है, मालूम भी नहीं है. I thought that how they can give a question where we need to know the income tax of different countries. So income tax rules we never need to know. इसको लिख के नहीं कर रहे हैं, इसका आंसर देखते हैं, बिकॉज लिखने में कुछ है नहीं इसमें. What type of explanation they have given, what they want to say. Let's see. This is question number 7. Question number 7. 5. Question number 7. What they are saying, there are some easier marks to pick in part B. So you may want to start with this part first. Make sure you cover all elements of the requirements, which involves adjusting the draft financial statements, calculate deferred tax, and briefly discuss the adjustments required. कि भाई आप फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट का फिगर को करेक्ट करोगे, पूरा बनाना नहीं है. डेफर्ड टैक्स उसके ऊपर निकालोगे और उसका ट्रीटमेंट बताओगे. You can come back to conceptual basis for recognizing deferred tax in party. बोलता ए का थ्योरी बाद में लिख लेना, पहले बी का आंसर देना चाहिए एग्जाम में. फिर भी हम लोग पहले ए पढ़ रहे. The accounting model used to account for deferred tax is based on premise that tax effects of transactions should be recognized in the same period as the transaction themselves. मतलब बोल रहा है बुक्स ऑफ अकाउंट्स में टैक्स इफेक्ट तभी दिखाना है जब आइटम आ रहा है. The temporary difference approach is based on the assumption that an asset will ultimately be received, recovered or realized by a cash inflow which will enter into the determination of future taxable profits. Thus, the tax payable on realization of assets should be provided for. It is argued that it should be inconsistent to represent that the asset can be recovered at its carrying amount while ignoring the tax consequences. Similarly, for a liability carried in the statement of financial position, there is an implicit assumption that liability will ultimately be settled by cash outflow. The outflow will enter into the determination of tax profits, and any tax deductible allowance will effectively be an asset. As above, it would be inconsistent to recognize the liability when ignoring the tax consequences of the recognition. बहुत खराब मतलब मेरे तो ऊपर से जा रहा है भाई इतना इंग्लिश. It's simple. What is deferred tax assets? What is deferred tax liability? You can give some example. You can say accounting income is pure accrual basis, but income tax is cash basis. But those differences are temporary. Later on, ultimately an expense will be recorded as an expense and income will be recorded as an income. वैसे करके लिखना चाहिए मेरे हिसाब से. मैं तो ये नहीं लिख सकता, आप लिख सकते हैं, बात अलग है. It's your call. But normally, if whatever knowledge I have, nobody can write this, even though you read 20 times. Maybe you are convent educated. मेरा इंग्लिश तो बढ़िया नहीं है, चलिए कोई बात नहीं. But you need to write deferred tax assets and liability properly. Then property, plant and equipment 10,000. That to value directly given. They have given the tax base value 2,400, so difference. This does not have any meaning. Goodwill 6,000, goodwill पे deferred tax नहीं होता है. Other non-current asset 5,000, they have said income tax में तो पूरा खर्चा दिखा दिए full 5,000. Financial asset, it is 1,500. So this is all assets, non-current asset. Trade receivable, the figures are directly given. You don't need to do anything. Then relating to long term 9,600, 10,000 deferred tax, इसके लिए इसको यहाँ लेना ही नहीं था. Because deferred tax तो हम निकालेंगे, अभी हमें पता थोड़ी ना है. Employee benefits 5,000, 5,200. Current tax payable, that is not to be taken here. The payables 5,000 and 4,000, they have given difference. The share capital and all that, they are just saying because question में पूछा है the financial statement figures. This 1,000 is what relating to the, what do you say? The 1,000 adjustment relating to employee benefits. So retained earning will reduce by 1,000. And then they are saying that all items for which deferred tax liability, all items for which deferred tax asset आप net पे भी निकाल सकते हैं. सीधा सीधी on 12,800 at the rate of 30%. You don't need to show breakup. The total figure is 3,840, but in the balance sheet 3,400. So the balance 240 more. The deferred tax liability to be created for 240 more. Then the comments, the financial statements at fair value through other comprehensive should be valued at fair value with increasing going to equity. बस इतना सा brief explanation है. The bonds should be split into equity and debt elements with a reduction in the liability and transfer to equity. The defined benefit plan should recognize in full consequence of rule IS 19. This amounts to past service cost where future benefits paid to increased based upon past service. Thus the employee benefits liability will increase and 1 million will reduce your retained earning. As the development cost have been allowed for tax purpose, it have a tax base 0. Goodwill or tax वगैरह पे कोई tax नहीं होता है. The accrual for compensation will not be allowed until a late period, therefore will reduce the tax base. Normally. And then what they are saying? यहाँ पर they are saying breakup. Goodwill 1 marks, other intangible 1 mark, financial assets 1 mark, trade. जबकि trade receivable and all that plant machinery कुछ करना नहीं है. Everything is already given in the question, both the figures. But still if you are doing it correctly, carrying value, this tax base, this, the difference is this, that is giving you 1 marks. And then the final calculation of new figure compared with the old figure difference will be giving you further marks. यहाँ पर ये भी लिखा है मैक्सिमम बट बैलेंस विल बी दिस ओनली कि डिस्कशन में 7 मार्क्स आपको देना, उसका ब्रेकअप नहीं दिया है. द वे यू आर एक्सप्लेनिंग योर डेफर्ड टैक्स एसेट्स एंड लायबिलिटी विल गिव यू सम मार्क्स. मेरे को ऐसा लगता है लिखेगा आप उतना ही टाइम देखकर. मान लीजिए क्वेश्चन 20 मार्क्स का है, 25 मार्क्स, तो 25 मार्क्स इंटू 1.8, 45 मिनट्स. रीडिंग ऑल्सो 45 मिनट्स है. अब आप सोचिए कि रीडिंग में मान लीजिए 10 मिनट गया या 15 मिनट गया, तो आपको जो भी कैलकुलेशन लिखना फिकना है सब 30-35 मिनट्स में कंप्लीट करना है। क्योंकि लिखने के लिए तो आप बहुत कुछ फाइनेंशियल इंस्ट्रूमेंट सब में लिख सकते हैं, लेकिन यू नीड टू राइट दैट मच सो दैट यू कैन कंप्लीट योर पेपर। अदरवाइज आप तो पेपर छूट जाएगा ना। आप अगर 45 मिनट्स का क्वेश्चन 1 आवर लगाओगे, 15 मिनट्स वेयर यू विल टेक, कहीं से नहीं मिलेगा आपको। ये लोग ने लिखा था ब्रीफ एक्सप्लेनेशन, तो इसलिए इन्होंने ब्रीफ में 2-2 लाइन लिखा है, बिकॉज द क्वेश्चन वाज आस्किंग ब्रीफ एक्सप्लेनेशन। सो ब्रीफ मतलब छोटा ही होता है, इसलिए इन्होंने ज्यादा एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं दिया क्वेश्चन का। राइट, तो इसलिए जब फोर्थ वाला छूटने का 2 कारण होता है। एक होता है कि हम लोग जो जोश है वो लास्ट में आते आते खत्म कर देते हैं, मन नहीं करता है, और ऐसा होता है। आई हैव सीन कि यू डोंट लाइक टू राइट। हाँ हाँ, जानता हूं। तो इन दैट केस आपको ये सोचना है कि जैसे एक पेपर आप लिखे, 2 और अगर आप करते हैं मॉक टेस्ट सीधा 3 आवर्स में, तो फिर ऐसा एग्जाम के टाइम पे नहीं होएगा। यू विल बी एबल टू मेंटेन योर कूल, मेंटेन योर कॉन्फिडेंस टिल 3 आवर्स। बिकॉज नॉर्मली एग्जाम जब हम लोग देते हैं ना, मे बी ऑन कंप्यूटर और मे बी पेन एंड पेपर, एग्जाम देने के बाद बहुत ऐसा थकान महसूस होता है। क्यों होता है? कभी फील किया है? कभी ऐसा नहीं लगा होगा कि एग्जाम देने के बाद डांस करने का मन कर रहा है? ऐसा नहीं होता है। ठीक है, बट स्टिल यू फील वेरी, आई मीन टू से, माने यू आर नॉट डूइंग एनी हमाली, आई मीन टू से एनी फिजिकल वर्क, but still when you give exam you feel very tired. There are 2 reasons. When you are giving mock test in home, then maybe you fail or pass, it is not affecting you, you are not tensed. But in the exam hall every second is giving you that अगर मैं पास नहीं हुई तो झमेला ये चल रहा है। ठीक है। दूसरा, जब आप एग्जाम देते हो आप पूरा बॉडी दिमाग पूरा उसमें लगा देते हो, आप कुछ नहीं सोचते। मे बी आपके दिमाग, माने मे बी इन योर लाइफ सो मेनी प्रॉब्लम्स आर हैपनिंग, मे बी समबडी इज मैरिड और ऑफिस में कुछ है, एग्जाम के टाइम पे कुछ याद नहीं आता। व्हेन द एग्जाम इज गोइंग ऑन, योर इंटायर बॉडी, एवरी पार्ट ऑफ योर बॉडी, एवरी ब्लड काउंट इज देयर फॉर द पेपर। तो मे बी यू आर नॉट डूइंग एनी फिजिकल वर्क, बट एग्जाम में आप बहुत, माने आई मीन टू से बहुत एग्जॉस्ट हो जाते। एग्जाम इसीलिए नॉर्मल टेस्ट से बढ़िया जाता है, बिकॉज योर फोकस इज हायर। बट देन अगर हम लोग मॉक टेस्ट वगैरह करते हैं, तो मॉक टेस्ट करने से हमें वो फील आता है कि एग्जाम में मेरे को इतना देर बैठना है, मेरे को यहां ध्यान देना है, मेरा लास्ट क्वेश्चन में टाइम नहीं बचने से गड़बड़ हो रहा है, तो मेरे को पहले ध्यान देना है कि मैं कैसे कंप्लीट करूं, पहले कौन सा करना है। जब आप एक मॉक टेस्ट देते हैं तो ये सारी बातें आप सोचते हैं, तो उससे होता क्या है, बेटर परफॉर्मेंस कम्स इन एग्जाम्स। मॉक टेस्ट देने से कोई जादू नहीं होने वाला है, बट इट हैपेंस लाइक दैट। कोई बात नहीं है, तो एग्जाम अच्छा जाएगा। जिसका मॉक टेस्ट खराब जाता है उसका एग्जाम अच्छा होता है जनरली, सच्ची में। छोड़ना नहीं है, बस ध्यान देंगे। डोंट लीव द पेपर, बिकॉज इफ यू लीव द पेपर यू कांट पास anybody. And if you do 100 marks paper, there is a very high probability that you will pass the exam, because 100 marks paper only those student can solve who has studied very well. अकाउंट्स का पेपर बचपन से जब भी दिए होंगे, सीए फाउंडेशन, सीए इंटर, सीए फाइनल, सब जगह क्या लगा होगा, बहुत लेंदी है, नहीं क्या? दैट इज अकाउंटिंग पेपर रूल, ये है भाई। ठीक है। हाँ, ये मेरे को भी तो याद है यार। सीए इंटर एग्जाम दिए, फर्स्ट 20 मार्क्स क्वेश्चन, इंश्योरेंस कंपनी बैलेंस शीट, सब कुछ याद करके गया है। चंकी रिप्रिमांडेड दीपिका बिकॉज ऑफ केयरलेस बिहेवियर, आप लोग भी ऐसे याद किया होगा। वहां चंकी दिख रहा है, मेरे को कुछ दिख रहा ही नहीं है। ऑल हेडिंग्स ऑफ बैलेंस शीट गॉन फ्रॉम ब्रेन। सोचा भाई ये एकदम। तो मैं सोचा ये 20 मार्क्स यार बाद में करते हैं, माथा नहीं लगाना है, पहले दूसरा करते हैं जो आता है। देन आई स्टार्टेड इन सीए इंटर डूइंग अ क्वेश्चन ऑफ रेशियो एनालिसिस एट द एंड, 5-7 मार्क्स। करंट रेशियो, क्विक रेशियो निकालना है. It's very simple. Figures are written so many laddus. I was writing laddus in the calculator plus. 5 मिनट का चीज 20 मिनट लगा दिया जबरदस्ती. If I would have taken the figures in millions or thousands, 2 मिनट में हो जाता. एक सिंपल रेशियो निकालने में ये टाइम लगा दिया. फिर देखा यार गड़बड़ हो रहा है. सो दूसरा क्वेश्चन में थोड़ा जल्दी किए, फास्ट. जो लास्ट वाला इंश्योरेंस कंपनी का फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन 20 मार्क्स, खाली बस लिख के आ गया, बैलेंस शीट टोटली नहीं किया. क्या होएगा मालूम है, मिलेगा ही नहीं जब पता ही है. एंड देन स्टिल स्कोर्स इन सीए इंटर इन अकाउंट 60+. कोई बोलेगा सर कैसे आ गया? अरे अभी स्टूडेंट लोग अकाउंट्स का पेपर में ऐसा ही होता है खासकर. यू विल थिंक दैट यू विल बी गेटिंग नॉट इवन 50 बट यू आर गेटिंग 60+. सो यू आर थिंकिंग कैसे आ गया. आप ये नहीं सोचते पार्ट मार्किंग है, हर एक स्टेप के ऊपर मार्क्स है. जो भी आप लिख रहे हैं तो आपको लग रहा है आप खराब लिखे होंगे. जब मैं चेक करूंगा कल परसों, देन आई विल गिव यू मार्क्स which is genuine. It's not that I am overestimating your marks, you deserve 40, I am giving you 60. ऐसा नहीं है. 1-2 नंबर 3 नंबर इधर उधर तो देखेंगे कैसा लिखे. अकाउंट्स में पास होने के लिए बस एक ही बात है, पूरा पेपर करना है, नथिंग एल्स. पूरा पेपर तभी होएगा जब आप 2-3 पेपर 3 घंटा में करेंगे, नहीं तो होना नहीं तो होएगा नहीं. यू विल थिंक दैट यू आर स्टडिंग टॉपिक वाइज एंड ऑल दैट. एग्जाम में सब देखकर डर जाएंगे. A question which would be solved in 10 minutes, it will be taking 50 minutes. हो गया. हाँ, तो जब ट्राई कर रहे हैं तो गलतियां दिख रही है ना. So you will not be repeating that mistake in exam. That's called practice. और तो थोड़ा 5% तो लक होता ही है कि आज चेन्नई सुपर किंग वो लोग से लास्ट 2 बॉल में छक्का चौका मार के जीत गया, वो अलग बात है यार. दैट्स अ लक. बट ये नहीं है कि चेन्नई सुपर किंग जीतना नहीं चाहिए था, वो नहीं है, दम था वो लोग. ठीक है, चलिए आगे बढ़ते. एनी क्वेश्चन रिलेटिंग टू डेफर्ड टैक्स फॉर द टाइम बिंग? मिनी, आर यू गेटिंग? बिकॉज दे हैव टू स्टडीड सो मेनी टाइम्स इन लास्ट 3 months. हर्षा कैसा लग रहा है आपको? गुड मिनी. और कौन है? ठीक है, चलिए आगे बढ़ते हैं भाई. द डायरेक्टर्स ऑफ नॉर्मैन. नाउ दिस द इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग इज नॉट देयर इन IFRS. यहां ये भी लिख देता हूं, 1 सेकेंड. इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग भी IFRS सिलेबस में नहीं है. द डायरेक्टर्स ऑफ नॉर्मैन, अ पब्लिक लिमिटेड कंपनी, हैव हर्ड दैट एन इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग फ्रेमवर्क हैज बीन रिलीज्ड. A public limited company have heard that an integrated reporting framework has been released, and this governs the purpose and content of an integrated report. The directors want to produce an integrated report for Norman and therefore require further information. Discuss the purpose and content of an integrated report. मैं डिस्कस भी करूंगा, लेकिन साथ में आंसर देखकर अपने आप को एकदम तैयार करेंगे कि कैसे इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट का आंसर लिखना है. इट इज योर टेक्निकल नॉलेज बिकॉज नो इंफॉर्मेशन गिवन एज सच, जस्ट दैट मार्केट में इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग का फ्रेमवर्क आया है. कंपनी डायरेक्टर्स आर थिंकिंग दैट दे शुड बी फॉलोइंग इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग. सो व्हाट दे शुड बी इंक्लूडेड? द पर्पस एंड कंटेंट ऑफ इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट. ठीक है. इन May 2018, दैट अर्लियर वॉज व्हाट? There is no concern with the year in that one. In May 2018, Norman started issuing vouchers to customers when they stay in its hotels. In May 2018, Norman started, I think IFRS 15, revenue recognition, started issuing vouchers to customers when they stay in its hotels. The vouchers entitle the customers to a discount on a subsequent room booking in June, July or August. Voucher will entitle the customer to discount in room booking in future. Past experience of similar schemes suggests that only 2 in 5 vouchers are redeemed by the customer. Sales of the rooms in May 2018 amounted to 30 million and have been fully paid for. Norman issued 2,50,000 vouchers entitling customers to discount of 5 million. Sales of 30 million amounted to and have been fully paid for. There is no discount in this. And the Norman issued 2,50,000 vouchers. Norman has obtained a significant amount of grant income for the development of hotels in Europe. ये तो अलग कहानी चालू हो गया, ठीक है, देखते हैं. The grant have been received from government bodies and relate to the size of the hotel which has been built by the grant assistance. The intention of the grant income was to create jobs in areas where there was significant unemployment. The grants received of 70 million will have to be repaid if the cost of building and the hotels is less than 500 million. One is IS 20, one is revenue. Discuss how the above income would be treated in the financial statement of Norman for the year ended 31st May 2018. Discuss how the above income would be treated in the financial statements of Norman for the year ended 31st May 2018. The mark allocation is shown against each of the 2 transactions above. Discuss how the above incomes would be treated in the financial statement of Norman for the year ended 31st May 2018. The mark allocation is shown against each. एक बार पहले ये दोनों को ही बात करते हैं, then we are discussing about integrated reporting. Now, कभी आपने suppose you are going for shopping. You are going for shopping and you went into Pantaloon, West Side or any type of this Spencer Mall or anything. वो लोग बोल रहे हैं कि आप कार्ड बना लीजिए, मेंबरशिप कार्ड. और मेंबरशिप कार्ड अगर आप बनाओगे तो आपको जितना भी सामान खरीदोगे क्रेडिट मिलेगा, जिसको आप प्रोडक्ट के अगेंस्ट में रिडीम कर सकते हैं. कि आपने 1000 रुपीज का गुड्स खरीदा तो आपको 10 पॉइंट्स मिलेगा, और जब ये सारा पॉइंट एक्यूमुलेट हो जाएगा देन यू कैन यूज दीज पॉइंट्स टू परचेज गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. या दूसरा जो यहां बोल रहे हैं, होटल वाला लोग आपको मेंबरशिप बेचता है. होटल वाला लोग बोलता है देयर आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स, गोल्ड मेंबरशिप, प्लैटिनम मेंबरशिप, दिस दैट एंड ऑल दैट. अंडर दैट डिफरेंट फीचर्स आर देयर. कि यू विल बी व्हेन यू आर बिकमिंग अ गोल्ड मेंबर और समथिंग, then in that case when later on you will be going for any dinner, going for any breakfast, going for any lunch, or maybe booking any rooms and all that, then based on your membership you will be getting discount. आपको डिस्काउंट मिलेगा as compared to normal price you need to pay less. आपको कमती देना होगा. नॉर्मली ये सब तो रेवेन्यू ही है. When you are going in Pantaloon, West Side or any Spencer Mall and they are selling you a card, for them it is a revenue generating activity. अगर आप होटल के अंदर कोई मेंबरशिप ले रहे हैं, that is a revenue generating activity for them. That is very much, you can say, IFRS 15. In IFRS 15, revenue recognition 5-point test. What are the 5-point test? Can anybody say? What are the 5-point tests in IFRS 15?
To identify the performance obligation. May I say or Surojit?
You can say one, but because Surojit background noise is high. So let's, Surojit, stop, you say.
There are 5, sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
5 points. One is identifying the contractual obligation between the buyer and receiver, for the seller. There should be a contract defined. Second is that the transaction price should be separately identifiable. Third one is that it was identifiable in respect to the performance obligation. Fourth is that
नहीं, थर्ड तो हुआ नहीं अभी तक. हाँ, ठीक है.
third is to allocate the transaction value along with the performance obligations, that is in case of warranties and all that, it should be separately identified. fourth is I recognize the revenue only when the performance obligation is completed.
तो 5 हुआ ना, 4 ही हुआ.
और fifth one
नहीं, आप सेकंड वाला एक्चुअली बोले नहीं. फर्स्ट देयर शुड बी अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एंड देन सेकंड वन देयर द डिफरेंट राइट्स एंड ऑब्लिगेशंस इन द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. व्हाट आर द थिंग्स यू नीड टू डू इन द कॉन्ट्रैक्ट.
कॉन्ट्रैक्चुअल ऑब्लिगेशन वहां मिक्स कर.
हाँ, वो दोनों मिला दिए आप, कोई बात नहीं है. फिर उसके बाद ट्रांजेक्शन प्राइस, फिर एलोकेशन ऑफ द ट्रांजेक्शन प्राइस बिटवीन डिफरेंट ऑब्लिगेशंस एंड देन बेस्ड ऑन द परफॉर्मेंस द रेवेन्यू विल बी रिकॉग्नाइज्ड. अगर हम लोग एफआर का स्टूडेंट है और आईएफआरएस का स्टूडेंट है, ये दोनों एग्जाम का है, हम लोग ये सब भी लिखेंगे ना और थोड़ा बहुत कोरिलेट कर देंगे, नंबर मिल जाएगा. लेकिन अगर हम लोग एसबीआर का स्टूडेंट है, आपको यहां से देखना है इसमें से कौन सा स्टोरी ज्यादा रेलेवेंट है. अब नॉर्मली कॉन्ट्रैक्ट तो है ही है भाई, बिकॉज Norman is selling vouchers, so the customers are entering into a contract that later on they will be buying the rooms at a discounted price and all that. But performance obligation क्या है यहां पर? What is the performance obligation against the voucher the hotel need to fulfill? क्या भाई? In May, Norman started vouchers to customers when they stay in hotel. होटल में रहने से वाउचर मिलेगा, यानी कि वाउचर होटल में रहने का है और वाउचर बाद में रूम के अगेंस्ट में डिस्काउंट मिलेगा. 2 ऑब्लिगेशन हो गया ना. आपको क्लास मिलेगा और साथ में वाउचर के अगेंस्ट में बाद में क्लास सस्ता में मिलेगा. देयर आर 2 परफॉर्मेंस ऑब्लिगेशन in regard to Norman Hotel. One is the sale of the room, that is the room service, and the second discount in future room booking. है ना? So अभी बात ये आता है कि whether they should be treated as separate performance obligation, the room booking and the discount on future rooms, whether they should be treated as a separate obligation. Actually you understand that I am practically saying this कि हमारे पास ताज का क्या मेंबरशिप बोलता है, माई वाइफ नोस. ताज का एक मेंबरशिप है हम लोग के पास. उसमें क्या होता है कि अगर हम ताज में डिनर वगैरह करने जाते हैं, सो आई विल बी गेटिंग फ्लैट 25% डिस्काउंट. ठीक है. उसके अंदर साथ में है कि जो ताज के अंदर अगर और भी कोई अदर सर्विसेज है, कोई कटिंग फटिंग जो भी यार, वो सब में भी हमको 25% फ्लैट डिस्काउंट है. साथ में ताज का कोई भी प्रॉपर्टी इंडिया नहीं वर्ल्ड में कहीं भी है, सो आई विल बी ट्रीटेड एज अ डिफरेंट कैटेगरी ऑफ मेंबर एंड आई विल बी गेटिंग सम एक्स्ट्रा डिस्काउंट ऑन द रूम्स बुकिंग. मान लीजिए हमको कहीं भी जाना है, हमको वहां पर रूम बुकिंग में डिस्काउंट मिलेगा. इसके लिए वो लोग कितना पैसा लिए मेरे को ध्यान नहीं है, शायद 25-30 हजार रुपया लिया था. दैट इज वैलिडिटी 1 ईयर कि 25 to 30,000 है. उसमें वो लोग ये बोलता है कि भाई कोई टाइम पे आपको रूम चाहिए तो रूम आपको मिलेगा, आपको प्रायोरिटी दिया जाएगा और साथ में आपका जो भी बुकिंग होएगा बाद में डिनर फिनर जो भी होएगा उसमें आपको डिस्काउंट मिलेगा. अब डिस्काउंट तो हमको तब मिलेगा ना जब हम सच में जाके डिनर करेंगे, जब हम सच में जाके वहां बाद में रूम लेंगे, तब तो डिस्काउंट मिलेगा ना. नहीं तो मिलेगा कहां से? नहीं तो मिलेगा नहीं. नॉर्मली जब हम कार्ड ले रहे हैं तो मेरे मन में तो ऐसा है कि विद इन 1 ईयर हम ये बेनिफिट को एंजॉय करेगा. हमको कोई डिनर में जाना है, कभी अच्छा लग रहा है तो चलो आज ताज ही चलते हैं. बिकॉज नॉर्मली इफ द डिनर कॉस्ट विल बी से 4,000 रुपीज, 5,000 रुपीज. विथ माई डिस्काउंट इट विल बी कमिंग 3,750. सो मे बी आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इन गोइंग, आई विल बी यूटिलाइजिंग दैट. बट जब कंपनी माने ताज ऐसा माने ऐसा वाउचर मेरे को दे रहा है, व्हेन दे आर गिविंग मी, देन इन दैट केस कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि हम वो बेनिफिट यूज करेगा. तो ताज उसको रिकॉर्ड कैसे करेगा? मान लीजिए मैंने 25,000 रुपया ताज को दे दिया फॉर गेटिंग द वाउचर्स, फॉर स्टेइंग इन द रूम्स एंड ऑल दैट. तो ताज उस 25,000 को रेवेन्यू रिकॉर्ड कर लेगा क्या? कैश अकाउंट, बैंक अकाउंट डेबिट 25,000, रेवेन्यू क्रेडिट 25,000. कैन द रिकॉर्ड? We are saying the performance obligation when fulfilled, then it will be recorded as an income. When the performance obligation is fulfilled, then it will be recorded as an income. Relating to room, if I am taking a room, then relating to room, they will be recording the income. But relating to the discount which I can enjoy in future, whether I will utilize the discount or not, how can they record income now? They are getting money, but that is a deferred income for them. When the voucher validity 1 year is over, then they can record income. Or maybe when I was actually going for any dinner, any lunch, or actually I am enjoying the discount in booking the rooms anywhere in the world, then they will be recording that portion as an income. Maybe 1 year, or maybe when the service is enjoyed by the customer. तो यहां पर वो लोग क्या बोल रहे हैं, आपको बता रहे हैं कि नॉर्मल आप मान लीजिए 30 मिलियन रूम का भाड़ा है, नॉर्मल fully paid, and discount is relating to 5 million. Whatever money for voucher received from a customer, that will be bifurcated between standalone selling price of these two things. For the room, once it is enjoyed, straight away income. But for the voucher, when the service will be enjoyed by the customer, or maybe when the validity period of the voucher is over, then that portion of income will be recorded. So जो मान लीजिए there is a customer giving 1 lakh. 1 lakh में it is a 30 and 5 का ratio. 1 lakh will be divided. So relating to the room part, the revenue will be recognized when the room is given, when the room is taken by the customer. But relating to the voucher discount part, it will remain deferred income. Till the time the voucher is not utilized, till the time the validity period is not over, that cannot be recorded as income. We can say that relating to room, it is at the point when the room is given. But relating to voucher, relating to discount during the course of the period, the voucher validity, when it will be enjoyed or when it will lapse. आपको इसमें फर्स्ट पॉइंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है, ये सब नहीं लिखना है. आपको इसमें परफॉर्मेंस ऑब्लिगेशन 2 ठो है लिखना है, और वो दोनों कब फुलफिल्ड हो रहा है बस ये लिखना है. और साथ में आप बोलेंगे कि उसको डिवाइड किया जाएगा 30 और 5 के रेशियो में. सो 5 से रिलेटेड जो पोर्शन होएगा दैट इज ए डेफर्ड इनकम, 30 से रिलेटेड जो पोर्शन होएगा दैट इज रिकॉर्डेड एज इनकम व्हेन द रूम इज गिवन. यू डोंट हैव टू राइट एनी अदर थिंग. मान लीजिए नॉर्मली IFRS स्टूडेंट 5 पॉइंट लिखा, कुछ इधर उधर लिखा तो भी चलेगा, लेकिन SBR का स्टूडेंट को स्पेसिफिकली क्या स्टोरी है वही लिखना पड़ेगा, तभी नंबर मिलेगा, नहीं तो नहीं मिल सकता है. ये आजकल सभी जगह होता है, बहुत सारा चीज में होता है. आप कोई भी दुकान वगैरह में जाते हैं, वो वाउचर देता है, बोलता है पॉइंट्स आपको रिडीम करना है, मिलेगा. होटल में होता है, सभी जगह होता है. तो वो पॉइंट्स उन लोगों के लिए डेफर्ड इनकम होता है. जब वो डेफर्ड इनकम को आप इंजॉय करेंगे देन इट विल बिकम इनकम. इफ यू डोंट इंजॉय द पीरियड ओवर देन द डेफर्ड इनकम बिकम्स इनकम. ये सभी जगह होता है आजकल, नॉट ओनली इन होटल, it is happening in most of the places. To make the customer as a loyal customer, कि वो हमारे पास रहे भी जाए भी नहीं, हरदम हम लोग उसको बेनिफिट दे, फायदा दें, वो हमें फायदा दे, इसलिए सभी जगह ऐसा होता है. Relating to IFRS 15, revenue recognition, there can be millions of examples which cannot be incorporated in any syllabus. You need to think 5 different points and you need to apply the relevant points there in the situation. Maybe your application is wrong, but the relevant points you are applying, even in SBR also you will be getting 50% marks easily. In SBR exam also you will get 50%. But आप ऐसा आंसर लिखोगे, मान लीजिए स्टूडेंट लोग क्या लिखता है, IFRS 15 थोड़ा पढ़ के है, there are 5 points. There should be a contract. The obligations should be identified. Then in that case, there is a transaction price, allocation. और इससे कोई मतलब नहीं है क्या लिखा नहीं लिखा, 2 लाइन. This is satisfying the condition, revenue recorded. नंबर कितना मिलेगा? Out of 6, maximum 1 mark. Because there is no application of the knowledge. You may be knowing the memorizing that what are the IFRS 15 5 points, but there is no application of your knowledge to the scenario. तो in that case, आप कोई भी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में उसका रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन में हेल्प कैसे कर सकते? नहीं कर सकते. तो एग्जाम में नंबर कैसे मिलेगा? तो या तो एग्जामिनर 6 में 1 नंबर दुखी होके दे देगा या कुछ नहीं देगा. मे बी यू विल थिंक दैट 6 में 3 तो मिल जाएगा. यू आर थिंकिंग रॉन्ग. यू आर नॉट अप्लाइंग. दिस इज प्योर सिचुएशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चन एप्लीकेशन ऑफ दिस नीड टू बी अप्लाइड. नीचे वाला भी आप सोचेंगे आपको IS-20 आता है, रेवेन्यू माने गवर्नमेंट ग्रांट्स, वैसे नहीं होएगा. यू नीड टू अप्लाई योर नॉलेज इन द सिनेरियो, देन ओनली दे विल बी गिविंग मार्क्स इन SBR एग्जाम. IFRS में थोड़ा बहुत होने से भी चल जाएगा. इवन दो IFRS का रिजल्ट वैसे खराब है, IFRS का रिजल्ट इज अराउंड 40%, बट SBR रिजल्ट इज 50% प्लस. 10% ज्यादा स्टूडेंट लोग SBR पास करते हैं. IFRS के अंदर नॉर्मली जैसे हम लोग की क्लास में है, कोई क्लास करता ही नहीं है यार, कोई पढ़ता ही नहीं है नॉर्मली. कोई आज 70 जन है, IFRS का एग्जाम 5 या 6 जन एग्जाम दे रहे हैं, बैलेंस 65 लोग गायब. सबके एक ही प्रॉब्लम, सर पर्सनल कुछ इश्यू हो गया था, इस बार मैं नहीं दे रहा हूं, नेक्स्ट बार दूंगा. जैसे नेक्स्ट बार तो कभी आएगा ही नहीं, दिसंबर विल नेवर कम. दैट्स द प्रॉब्लम. मे बी आउट ऑफ 70 मे बी 5-7 के साथ जेन्युइन प्रॉब्लम हुआ होगा, थोड़ी ना सबके साथ हो गया यार. और वैसे प्रॉब्लम तो लाइफ में हरदम ही रहेगा, नेवर इट विल गो ऑफ. लाइफ है तो प्रॉब्लम्स है. ठीक है, आगे. Norman had obtained a significant amount of grant income from development of hotel in Europe. Maybe for development of tourism, the Europe is giving grants for development of hotels. Obtained a significant amount of grant for development of hotels. The grant have been received from government bodies relate to the size of the hotel which has been built by the grant assistance. मतलब ग्रांट में बहुत सारा कंडीशंस है, कैसा होटल वगैरह बनाएंगे उसके लिए. The intention of the grant income was to create jobs in areas where there was significant unemployment. The intention of the grant income was to create jobs in areas where there was significant unemployment. The intention of the grant income was to create jobs. अब उसमें जॉब क्रिएट भी करना है. Where there was significant unemployment, होटल बना के लोगों को हायर करना है. That is also a condition. The grants received 70 million will have to be repaid if the cost of building the hotel is less than 500 million. ग्रांट का पैसा वापस करना पड़ेगा अगर आप होटल जो बनाएंगे वो 500 मिलियन से कम का है. The grant received 70 million will have to be repaid if the cost of building the hotels is less than 500 million. Now, relating to government grant, we studied that there are two types of government grant: revenue grant, capital grant. Revenue grant for meeting the expenditures, capital grant for purchasing any asset. Revenue grant will be adjusted against the respective expenditure. Capital grant will be adjusted against the respective asset cost price, or maybe it can be recorded as deferred income. This grant which we are receiving, whether it is a revenue grant or a capital grant, the grant amount we don't know, maybe 70 million, but there are two conditions. One condition is relating to development of a new hotel, that also to be greater than $500 million, and the another condition is hiring of the new employees. तो अगर न्यू एम्प्लॉय से रिलेटेड है तो जो एम्प्लॉय लोग को सैलरी फैलरी देंगे उससे एडजस्ट होएगा, दैट इज रेवेन्यू ग्रांट. और अगर होटल बनाने से रिलेटेड है तो मे बी इट इज डिडक्टेड फ्रॉम होटल कॉस्ट, और मे बी इट विल बी ट्रीटेड एज डेफर्ड इनकम. समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. इट इज नॉट क्लियर दैट वेदर इट इज अ रेवेन्यू ग्रांट और कैपिटल ग्रांट. Normally it is said that you need to refund the grant if the hotel value is less than 500 million. So more and more emphasis is given on the value of the hotel. So maybe it is looking like a capital grant, not a revenue grant. In the capital grant, we can record the grant as a deduction from the building value, hotel value, or maybe we can record it as a deferred income. We will be recording the grant as an income, the way the hotel will be depreciated. Depending upon the depreciation, the grant will be recorded as income. If it is deducted from the asset value, then to depreciation is automatically coming net figure. But if it is recorded as a deferred income, then based on the depreciation amount, the grant income should be recorded as an income. We can see that grant can be recorded in the books when the conditions are already fulfilled, and the conditions which are balanced to be fulfilled are under your control to fulfill. मान लीजिए आपको लगता है साल के एंड में आप 500 मिलियन का होटल नहीं बना पाएंगे, तो क्या होएगा? You have received the grant, you have recorded as income, you have recorded deduction from the hotel value, or maybe you have recorded as deferred income. But at the end of the year, you are of the opinion, the chances are there that maybe the hotel will not be a $500 million. Then what will happen?
ग्रांट तो तभी मिलेगा ना जब वर्चुअल सर्टेनिटी रहेगा, तभी तो
नहीं, हम लोग को वर्चुअल सर्टेनिटी मतलब हम लोगों ने ग्रांट के लिए जो कंडीशंस है वो फुलफिल कर दिया, हमने उसको रिकॉर्ड भी कर लिया, लेकिन साल के एंड में अब हम लोग पहुंचे हैं तो हमें लग रहा है कि हम लोग जो होटल बनाएंगे वो 500 मिलियन का नहीं बना पाएंगे। नहीं, अभी तो रिफंड, अभी तो हम लोग सोच रहे नहीं बना पाएंगे। अभी हम लोग कहां नहीं बनाए, हम लोग को लग रहा है कि द होटल विल नॉट। क्यों नहीं? मान लीजिए आपका होटल कंप्लीशन नहीं हुआ, अभी 2 महीना और बाकी है, लेकिन होटल जो बनेगा वो $500 मिलियन से कम का हो सकता है बने, तो अभी क्यों रिफंड करेंगे? आप ऐसा सोचिए, IAS 37 में जाएंगे, प्रोविजंस कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटीज कंटिंजेंट एसेट्स। तो अगर आपको लगता है कि प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ कुछ भी आपको आउटफ्लो होने का लेस देन 50% है, तब तो आप नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स में डिस्क्लोज करेंगे। अगर आपको लगता है प्रोबेबिलिटी 50% से ज्यादा है, प्रोबेबल है, तो इन दैट केस आप उसके अगेंस्ट में प्रोविजन बनाएंगे, माने वो भी लिखना होगा। बिकॉज वाई दे हैव मेंशन्ड दिस लास्ट लाइन, द ग्रांट रिसीव्ड ऑफ 70 मिलियन will have to be repaid if the cost of building the hotels is less than 500. The grant received of 70 million, मतलब ग्रांट 70 का नहीं है, जितना भी ग्रांट मिला उससे 70 मिलियन वापस करना पड़ेगा if the hotel is less than 500 million value. So for any amount which is to be refundable, we can estimate, reliably estimate, obligation is there, then in that case we need to make a provision or a disclose in notes to accounts. 70 या कम डिपेंड करता है कितना हमको रिफंड करना है, हम लोग को प्रोविजन बनाना है, बुक्स में लिखना है, या हो सकता है कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटी नोट्स टू अकाउंट्स में लिखना है, मे बी चांसेस। इफ द कॉस्ट ऑफ बिल्डिंग होटल इज 500 मिलियन से कम थी, ये भी है साथ में, इफ, तो ये तो हम लोग को पता नहीं है ना, उसी का तो प्रोबेबिलिटी का बात है।
ये बोल रही थी कि इफ द कॉस्ट ऑफ बिल्डिंग इज लेस देन 500,
हाँ,
अगर प्रोबेबिलिटी हम लोग कर पा रहे हैं तो अपने पास प्रोविजन बनाना है, तो मैं तब बोल रही थी कि तब अमाउंट ऑफ प्रोविजन 70 ही रखेंगे, ये बोल रही थी अगर बनाना पड़े।
मान लीजिए जैसे हम लोग वारंटी वाला क्वेश्चंस करते हैं, वारंटी, प्रोविजंस अगेंस्ट वारंटी एंड समथिंग, तो वारंटी में क्या होता है कि मान लीजिए लास्ट 5 साल से जितना भी गुड्स हम लोग बेचते हैं 5% पे ऊपर वारंटी क्लेम आता है, लेकिन इस बार भी 5% आएगा, कोई जरूरी तो नहीं है। क्लेम्स माइनर होता है, मेजर होता है, एवरेज होता है, अलग अलग होता है ना, तो हम लोग वहां पर क्यों एवरेज वैल्यू निकालते हैं? तो आपको वैसे ही एक एक्सपेक्टेड वैल्यू सोचना पड़ेगा। इफ यू से दैट द मोस्ट लाइकली आउटकम इज गोइंग टू बी 70, देन यू विल मेक अ प्रोविजन और मेक अ डिस्क्लोजर फॉर 70। But if you think that the most likely outcome will not be 70, then in that case आपको वैसे कैलकुलेट करना होगा ना, वो बोल रहे हैं। बात समझ रहे हैं? आपका बात सही है कि अगर 500 से कमती का हुआ तो हम लोग को तो 70 ही देना पड़ेगा ना। मान लीजिए 498 का हुआ, हो सकता है कि आप गवर्नमेंट से बात करें 70 नहीं देना पड़े, कम देना पड़ेगा, तो आपको एक एक्सपेक्टेड वैल्यू एस्टिमेट करना पड़ेगा जो रिलायबली एस्टिमेट होएगा, और जो आपका चांस है कि 50% से ज्यादा चांस है देना ही है, तब आप उसका प्रोविजन बनाओगे। अदरवाइज यू विल बी रिकॉर्डिंग एज अ कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटी। मैं बोल रहा हूं वैसे लिखने के लिए। बात समझ रहे हैं कि पहले तो लिखेंगे कि ग्रांट शुड बी रिकॉर्डेड एज इनकम व्हेन द कंडीशंस आर सेटिस्फाइड और इट इज गोइंग टू बी फुलफिल्ड, देयर इज श्योरिटी ऑफ रिसीविंग द ग्रांट अमाउंट। Then the grant can be of 2 types, revenue or capital. Here it may be revenue because creation of jobs, but it is based on the value of the property development, so it is not properly clear whether it is revenue or capital grant. Looking like capital grant because the first point relating to development of hotel, and if the development is not within this range, then in that case refund arises, so it is looking like a capital grant. Then आप बोलेंगे capital grant can be deducted from the hotel value or may be recorded as deferred income. देन आप बोलेंगे कि इफ देयर इज अ प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ रिफंडिंग द मनी, इफ देयर इज अ चांस दैट द होटल वैल्यू विल बी लेस देन 500 million, then maybe we need to create a provision or need to record a contingent liability based on the estimation. वैसा ये बोलना चाह रहा है. तो तीन अलग अलग बात हो गया. पहला ग्रांट को लिखेंगे कि नहीं, दूसरा हो गया रेवेन्यू या कैपिटल है क्या करेंगे, और तीसरा हो गया रिफंड के लिए एक प्रोविजन या कुछ आपको कंटिंजेंट लायबिलिटी बनाना है क्या. कुछ फिगर्स वगैरह नहीं है दोनों क्वेश्चन में, बस ऐसे ही आपको दो सिचुएशन को एक्सप्लेन करना है. वन इज रिलेटिंग टू IAS 20 एंड वन इज रिलेटिंग टू IFRS 15. Then comes the directors of Norman, a public limited company, have heard that an integrated reporting framework is released, and this governs the purpose and content of an integrated report. The directors want to produce an integrated report for Norman and therefore require further information. Discuss the purpose and the content of an integrated report. मान लिया आप हेडिंग देते हैं पर्पस ऑफ इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट. क्या पर्पस है इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट का? इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट का पर्पस है कि वी आर नॉट डूइंग बिजनेस जस्ट फॉर शॉर्ट टर्म फॉर द शेयर होल्डर गेन. वी आर डूइंग बिजनेस फॉर लॉन्ग टर्म फॉर क्रिएटिंग वैल्यू फॉर द इंटायर कम्युनिटी. The purpose of any business is not just to generate income and return for the shareholders. The purpose of business is not just to become short-term में profitable, but in the long run value creation, thinking about all stakeholders. That is, you can say, the purpose of integrated reporting. This purpose we fulfill by reporting in such a manner that it will show all these aspects, value creation in the long run. To create value creation, we can say that we report in the integrated reporting 6 types of capital: financial capital, manufactured capital, intellectual capital, human capital, social and relationship capital, और एक क्या है? Natural capital. ठीक है? 6 capital. Now we will say that all these capitals are interrelated, adversely related. If you say that you raise funds, and at the same time you purchase land, building, plant, machinery with the raise funds, so financial capital goes up, then your manufactured capital goes up, but because of increase in the production there is adverse effect on environment, natural capital sacrificed. The relationship with the influencers and all that are affected with the public because you are adversely affecting the environment. So increase in one capital brings the reduction in the other capital. We are concerned that the overall increase in the value of the organization, effect on the society, effect on the environment, effect on the local public economy. Considering 6 types of capital. Yani ki, if we are thinking about long term, then we need to report in such a way that we are not thinking about only one stakeholder, we are thinking about all of them together. Whether we are creating value in the long run for all the stakeholders, whether we are sustainable to create long-term values. For that, we can say that the content in the integrated report, what is the company's strategy, what is the company's business, what are the company's activities, what are the types of resources the company has, they are going to use, how the company will be bringing the value for long term and medium term, not only short term, how the company will think about the society, environment and economy. इन चीजों को लेकर हम लोग को बिल्टअप करना पड़ता रिपोर्ट. Obviously the reporting should be, because there are no, even though the framework are there, but there is no fixed guidelines. जैसे PL account, balance sheet है, notes to accounts, cash flow है. वैसे ही इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट में ये थोड़ी ना बोला हुआ ये लिखना है आपको टैक्स कितना दे रहे हैं ये बताना है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं लिखा हुआ है. देयर इज नो फिक्स्ड मेजरेबल गाइडलाइंस बाय विच यू कैन से दैट यू आर एक्चुअली ब्रिंगिंग वैल्यू टू द सोसाइटी. ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, ये आपको डिसाइड करना है कि हाउ मच इंप्लॉयमेंट यू आर क्रिएटिंग, हाउ मच यू आर क्रिएटिंग द बैलेंस बिटवीन मेन एंड वुमेन इन योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, how you are protecting the environment, how much you are doing recycling, how much capital you have raised by different sources, what return you have given to them. आपको अपना पैरामीटर्स डिसाइड करना होगा, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दोस पैरामीटर्स consistency should be maintained that what you will report. When you will be doing this, the customers are interested nowadays to deal with an organization which are more environment concerned, which are more sustainable. Suppliers, financiers are ready to give you debt, loan at a lower cost. Investors are interested in a company investing which has sustainability. Employees are interested to work in an organization. They are satisfied. They will be motivated when they are working in an organization which is sustainable. So integrated reporting may not be a compulsion nowadays, but it is gaining importance. We are not concerned with only one particular stakeholder, how much profit return we are given to shareholders. We have to, because profit is short-term measure. But medium and long term, you will be able to survive when you create value for the whole world. So for that reason, even though now integrated reporting is is not a necessary thing or not regulatory requirement, but many organizations in the world, many developed countries are promoting and saying that we should be following integrated reporting, holistic view of reporting. How much research and development we are doing, because whether it's AI, whether it's any type of development happening in any business, we will be able to survive, we will be able to give value when we are doing R&D. So how much we are expending on R&D, how much ethical we are, that is reported in integrated reporting. So integrated reporting का कोई format fixed guidelines नहीं है, बस उसने area बता दिया, आप इसको लिखो. आप उसको कैसे लिखोगे, क्या डालोगे, क्या बोलोगे, क्या मेजर करोगे, वो कोई फिक्स्ड गाइडलाइंस नहीं है, वो आपके ऊपर है. लेकिन आपको बार बार कंसिस्टेंसी मेंटेन करना है, उसी चीज को फॉलो करना है जो आप एक बार किए थे, सो दैट इट इज कंपैरेबल. और जब आप इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग करोगे, आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को दूसरे से कंपेयर किया जा सकेगा. यस जिनसन.
Sir, a carbon footprint whether it will be included in integration?
100%, sir. If you are doing any work, like suppose I am taking class, we are destroying environment because you are using internet, I am using internet is creating money, bursting some of the rays in the whole world, that is affecting your and my life. So we are affecting, but then we are educating. The education will bring growth in your life. So carbon emission means what? How much carbon dioxide you are releasing in the world because of your activities. What you are doing for saving in the carbon emissions, and how much carbon dioxide you are saving by your activities. How much oxygen you are leaving. That can be measured. There are different instruments and all that. That is a part of integrated reporting. Because when the organizations are reporting, they are using this much power to generate production per unit of power consumption for the production. Presently, power production is based on oil, based on coal and all these things. The natural power generation by wind or solar energy is not that much. It is increasing. So we can say that we should be using renewable sources, that is helpful for the carbon emission reduction. And at the same time, if it is maybe the oil and coal generated, but then that should be reduced in consumption. For that reason, 6 capital Surojit: financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, social and relationship, and natural. So human resource is a part of capital which need to be covered. Integrated reporting guidelines says that. How much expenditure we are doing in training the human beings, in making their skills development. That will be financially bad for us, but that will be non-financially, in terms of intellectual capital, in terms of other aspect, it will be good for us. We need to see whether net increase in the capital or not. आप एम्प्लॉय को ट्रेनिंग देंगे, पैसा लगेगा, तो फाइनेंशियल यू आर अफेक्टेड. बट उससे उनका बुद्धि बढ़ेगा, टर्नओवर विल बी लोअर, इंटेलेक्चुअल कैपिटल विल गोज अप, यू विल बी एबल टू ब्रिंग न्यू टाइप्स ऑफ प्रोडक्ट सर्विसेज, ह्यूमन बीइंग्स आर मोर सेटिस्फाइड. सो वो सब पैसा आपका बचेगा, वो सब फायदा होएगा. अल्टीमेटली फायदा होना चाहिए. तो लिखने के लिए बहुत लिख सकते हैं, बट थोड़ा सा स्ट्रक्चर्ड होना पड़ेगा कि पर्पस क्या है. कंटेंट के अंदर 6 कैपिटल है, कंटेंट के अंदर स्ट्रैटेजी होता है, रिसोर्सेस होता है, कंटेंट के अंदर रिस्क होता है, कंटेंट के अंदर व्हाट टाइप ऑफ बिजनेस वी विल बी डूइंग, हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू रिपोर्ट देम, गिव सम एग्जांपल, 1 or 2 जनरल एग्जांपल्स. देन इन दैट केस दे विल बी गिविंग यू 13 मार्क्स. और फिर जब आप उनका आंसर देखोगे तो उसमें मार्किंग कहां कहां पर, यहां पर हो सकता है पूरा 1 by 1. What is 13 marks on 13 points? You will find that in model answer they are saying 20 marks, 20 points. But that is maximum. Out of 20 points, a student need to write 13 points. The points should be written in paragraph format. Maybe in one paragraph you were writing 2-3 things. The paragraph should not be very lengthy. It should be 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. आप देखिए कोई भी मॉडल आंसर में कोई भी पैराग्राफ अलग अलग बात अलग अलग पैराग्राफ में कर रहे हैं, छोटा छोटा पैराग्राफ. एवरी पैराग्राफ शुड बी सेइंग समथिंग डिफरेंट. दैट एवरी पैराग्राफ विल बी गिविंग यू मार्क्स. देखते हैं, बिकॉज इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्ट तो जरूर देखना है, व्हाट दे हैव रिटन एंड देन अदर्स ऑल्सो. The question requires knowledge of integrated reporting as well as the accounting treatment of revenue and government grants. The purpose of an integrated report. The International Integrated Reporting Council, IIRC, define an integrated report, IR, as a communication about how an organization's strategy, governance, performance, and prospects in the context of its external environment lead to the creation of value in the short, medium, and long term. Value is broken down in integrated reporting framework into 6 components, referred to as capital. These are financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, social, and relationship, and natural. An IR outlines the impact that a business has on the full range of capitals through its business model. For example, its production processes will lead to the creation of profit and at the expense of environment. ऐसे एग्जाम्पल दिया कि increase in one capital is reduction in another capital. Integrated reporting is based on the belief that increasing financial capital at the expense of the other capital is unlikely to maximize value in the long run. An integrated report thus helps us to help users to establish whether short-term value creation can be sustained into the medium and long term. This will help sound investment decisions to be made. The key users of the IR deemed to be the providers of the financial capital. However, the report will also benefit employees, suppliers, customers, local communities, and policy makers. Key users are providers of finance, but others are also there. Then the content of the integrated report. The integrated reporting framework is principle based. That means there is no rules and guidelines. जैसा मर्जी है, principle based. आपको कुछ अलग लिखना है, कुछ अलग फॉलो करना है, you can. I'm not talking about exam. The integrated report saying that you can follow some other way. You don't need to follow exactly what is written in integrated reporting. Principle based means there is no law. The integrated reporting framework is principle based and therefore does not prescribe specific KPIs that must be disclosed in an IR. Senior management should use judgment to identify material issues. Senior management should use judgment to identify material issues. Material issues के लिए management need to judgmental. These decisions should be justified to the users of the report. And IR should include all of the following content element. Organization overview and external environment. What does the organization do and what are the circumstances under which it operates? Governance. How does the organization governance structure support its ability to create value in the short, medium, and long term? Opportunities and risk. What are the specific opportunities and risk that affect the organization ability to create value over the short, medium, and long term? Strategy and resource allocation. Where does the organization want to go and how does it intend to get there? What is the organization business model? Business model means how you are making your goods, how you are supplying to customers, wholesale, retail, transport, every business model. Performance, to what extent that the organization achieved its strategic objectives in respect of capital. Future outlook, what challenges and uncertainties is the organization likely to entering in pursuing a strategy. Basis of presentation, how does the organization determine what matters to include in the integrated report and how are such matters quantified or evaluated. Including this content within an IR will help companies shift the focus of their reporting from historical to long-term view. If we include integrated reporting, then our focus on reporting will be more futuristic as compared to just reporting past. Okay. Revenue recognition, that is the second question. When entering into a contract with customer, IFRS 15 revenue from contract with customers says that separate performance obligation must be identified. The two performance obligations are promise to deliver a hotel room and provide discounts on booking of the future. The total transaction price must therefore be allocated between these two performance obligations. The selling price 30 million directly observed. Norman must estimate the standalone selling price of vouchers taking the likelihood of redemption in account. Therefore, the vouchers can be redeemed to have a standalone selling price of 2 million. मैंने ये नहीं किया था, थोड़ा गलत था. Because they are saying that out of 5, only 2 persons are going for the voucher redeeming. So 5 million is the voucher value, but the normal value coming 5 out of 2 is 2 million. So we should allocate whatever money we receive from customers into 30:2, not 30:5. They are just assuming 30 million में, when we have received 30 million, so 30 million में 28.1 million relating to rooms and 1.9 million relating to vouchers. So revenue then performance obligation, the room have been already given, so 28.1 million revenue, 1.9 million allocated to vouchers. So they will be, when they will expire, a contract of 1.9 million recognized between the cash received and revenue. This will be a contract liability. I had not said this much. बोला लेकिन यहाँ का number कटेगा. Because I had not used this 5 में से 2 vouchers are redeemed. So based on that, what is the voucher standalone selling price? 2 million. And 30 million is the room price. So in that basis, whatever money we received against sale of rooms, we should be allocating. So 28.1 million we will record, but 1.9 million is a deferred income. When the vouchers will be utilized or when the period will expire, then we will record. मैंने इतना नहीं सोचा था. Marks पूरा नहीं मिलेगा. Government grants. The recognition of government grant is covered by IS 20 accounting for government grant and disclosure of government assistance. What is government assistance? Anybody remember? What is government assistance?
Non-monetary help.
How to do, suppose government is advising farmers how to do agriculture, how to use fertilizer, how to do this thing. So that is you can disclose, but no accounting for that. Grants should not be recognized until there is reasonable assurance that the company can comply with conditions and that grant will be received. Government grants are recognized in PL on systematic basis over a period in which the entity recognizes expense relating to the grant. IS 20 says that capital grants should be matched against the depreciation. There may be difficulties of matching cost and revenue when the terms of grant do not specify precisely the expense towards. In this case, the grant appears to relate both. जैसा हमने बोला, employment के लिए भी और building बनाने के लिए भी. However, if the grant was related to revenue, then the terms should be related to payroll, fixed amount of job created. The grant is only to be repaid if the cost of hotel is less than 500 million. Hence, it would repair that grant is capital base. If the company feels that the cost of hotel will not reach 500, a provision should be made for the estimated liability of the grant. That has been recognized. उसमें से जितना वापस करना होगा उसका प्रोविजन बनाना होगा. अगर हमें लगता है कि 500 मिलियन से कमती का होटल बनाने का चांसेस है, then in that case we need to make a provision for the amount to be refunded. Which one is difficult? Whether this revenue or grant or this integrated reporting. Which one is difficult question? If the question comes like integrated reporting type, or the question comes relating to grant, revenue recognition or something, which one is difficult question? Everybody. Anyone think that the integrated reporting is a difficult question than this? Anyone?
Sir, not difficult, but grants and revenue study किया हुआ है, integrated का सर go through किया हुआ है,
तो गो थ्रू ही करना है, इंटीग्रेटेड को और अंदर जाके क्या फायदा है?
नहीं, कैपिटल को डिस्क्राइब करने वाला
नहीं आएगा इतना कैपिटल को। आप ऐसा सोचिए, फाइनेंशियल कैपिटल मतलब लोन लेना, शेयर इशू करना, राइट्स इशू करना, जिससे भी आप पैसे लेंगे उनको आपको प्रॉपर रिटर्न देना है, नहीं तो वो पैसा क्यों देगा? मैन्युफैक्चर्ड कैपिटल मतलब लैंड, बिल्डिंग, प्लांट, मशीनरी, फर्नीचर, ये सब चीज आपको होना जिससे कि आपका प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी बढ़े, आप ज्यादा से ज्यादा प्रोडक्शन कर पाए। मान लीजिए लास्ट ईयर योर कैपेसिटी वाज 1000 मिलियन टन, दिस ईयर 1200 मिलियन टन, सो योर मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कैपेसिटी हैज गॉन अप। Then comes intellectual, technical know-how, copyrights, कोई knowledge, कोई skills, जिसके बेसिस पे you will be able to grow। तो आपने ऐसा कोई knowledge, मान लीजिए कोई मेडिसिन कंपनी है, सो उन्होंने कोई नया टाइप का मेडिसिन बनाया है, R&D किया है। Intellectual is relating to R&D, relating to some skills which development in an employee or in an organization, जिससे कि आप काम कोई AI डेवलप किया, that is intellectual। ह्यूमन कैपिटल, ट्रेनिंग, मोटिवेशन, रिक्रूटमेंट, सिलेक्शन, ये सब कि एम्प्लॉय लोग का ट्रेनिंग, मोटिवेशन, सिलेक्शन, ट्रेनिंग, इंसेंटिव, उनको मोटिवेट करना, अगर इन सब में वृद्धि हो रहा है, इंक्रीज हो रहा है, ह्यूमन कैपिटल। सोशल एंड रिलेशनशिप, सप्लायर है, फाइनेंसर्स है, जनरल पब्लिक है, गवर्नमेंट है, कोई भी जन एम्प्लॉय है, सबके साथ तो रिलेशनशिप बनाना है, बिकॉज बिजनेस इज बेस्ड ऑन रिलेशनशिप। सो अगर आपका रिलेशन ठीक नहीं है, लोगों से खराब है, तो गड़बड़ हो रहा है। तो आपका बिजनेस रिलेशनशिप कैसा इंप्रूव हुआ है? नेचुरल, प्रोटेक्टिंग एनवायरमेंट, रिसाइकलिंग, कार्बन एमिशन, इन सब चीजों पर ध्यान देना इज इंटेलेक्ट नेचुरल। तो ये सब सेल्फ एक्सप्लेनेटरी है, आप इसको पढ़ेंगे भी ना कहीं से माथा खराब हो जाएगा। आप सोचेंगे कहीं कुछ लिखता है, कहीं कुछ लिखता है, कहीं पर क्वेश्चन में कुछ है, कुछ लिखने लग गया। तो आपके अभी तो नहीं, जब आप एपीएम पढ़ेंगे, वैशाली एपीएम में आपने पढ़ा होगा, और या एसबीएल और एपीएम के अंदर इन दोनों के बारे में और ज्यादा डिटेलिंग आ जाता है। लेकिन एसबीएल और एपीएम एग्जाम अकाउंट्स जैसा, माने वैसा नहीं, इट इज ओपन एंडेड। व्हेन यू आर गिविंग एपीएम एंड एसबीएल एग्जाम, देन इट इज नॉट लाइक एसबीआर और एएफएम एग्जाम। एसबीआर और एएफएम आर मोर टेक्निकल, एग्जैक्टली ये सब है, ये आईएफआरएस है, ये फ्यूचर कैलकुलेशन है, ये ऑप्शन कैलकुलेशन, आपको टेक्निकली परफेक्ट बनना है। लेकिन एपीएम और एसबीएल के अंदर आपको ओपन एंडेड होना है, कोई राइटअप कुछ नहीं है, कोई एग्जैक्ट काप्लान में कुछ लिखा, आप अपना कुछ लिखिए। अब मैं पूछूंगा नहीं, वैशाली विल से दैट कि एपीएम एंड एसबीएल वाज इजियर देन एएफएम एंड एसबीआर। इज आई एम रॉन्ग? APM and SBL are difficult than SBR and APM, AFM, that you were saying.
No sir, APM और SBL तो easy था।
हाँ, मैं वही तो बोल रहा हूं, आप वही बोलोगे, मेरे को मालूम है। लेकिन बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट हैं जिनको ऐसा लगता है कि APM और SBL डिफिकल्ट है एज कंपेयर टू SBR और AFM। मेरे को पर्सनली ऐसा लगता है कि एपीएम और एसबीएल इज सिंपल पेपर देन, मैं आपके साथ ही हूं, एज कंपेयर टू एसबीआर और एएफएम, बिकॉज इन एपीएम एंड एसबीएल इट्स थ्योरी बट इट्स ओपन एंडेड। कोई टेक्निकली आपको स्टडी नहीं करना है, आपका बस अपना फीलिंग होना चाहिए कि कोई ऐसा सिचुएशन है, इसको कैसे डील करेंगे। इट्स मोर टाइप ऑफ बिजनेस प्रॉब्लम्स विच इज देयर इज नो फिक्स सॉल्यूशन। बट आप एसबीआर में जा रहे हैं, आपको रेवेन्यू रिकॉग्निशन नहीं मालूम है, ग्रांट नहीं मालूम है, आप एएफएम का एग्जाम देने जा रहे हैं, इन्वेस्टमेंट अप्रेजल का, एनपीवी, आईआरआर, इवन तो नाम सुना हुआ लग रहा है, बट आपको बेसिकली टेक्निकली माने ठीक नहीं है, आप उसको सॉल्व नहीं कर सकते एग्जाम। सो एसबीआर और एएफएम पढ़ने में थोड़ा टाइम ज्यादा लगता है, और एपीएम और एसबीएल पढ़ने में टाइम बहुत कम लगता है। मतलब मान लीजिए मैं AFM और SBR मोटा मोटी 25-25 क्लासेस पढ़ाता हूं, लेकिन जब APM पढ़ाता हूं 20 क्लास के अंदर खत्म, जब SBL पढ़ाते और पहले खत्म। तो APM और SBL में सिंस कॉमन है, कॉमन सेंस है, तो वो, लेकिन अब मान लीजिए कोई जन सोचेगा मेरे को तो मैन्युफैक्चर्ड कैपिटल का वही राइट अप लिखना है जो बुक में लिखा हुआ है, तब बहुत प्रॉब्लम है। देन इन दैट केस APM एंड SBL बिकम्स अ डिफिकल्ट पेपर टू पास, बिकॉज आप एग्जैक्टली सब याद करना चाहोगे तो क्या क्या याद करोगे आप, देयर इज नो लिमिट ना। यू नीड टू बी ओपन एंडेड कि भाई अगर ऐसा है, इसका ये प्रैक्टिकल सिचुएशन में ऐसे सॉल्यूशन निकलता है, दैट वे। ऐसे ही मैं जानना चाह रहा था, तो सुदीप्ता मे बी यू कैन से दैट कि मेरे, तो आपको मैन्युफैक्चर्ड कैपिटल कहीं से भी पढ़ के कुछ नहीं मिलेगा, हर जगह अलग अलग बात लिखा होएगा। बेसिक बात है कैपेसिटी टू प्रोड्यूस, फाइनेंशियल जो पैसा आता है, इंटेलेक्चुअल जो आपका ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कोई AI, कोई सिस्टम, कोई R&D, कुछ ऐसा नया चीज डेवलप हुआ, ह्यूमन रिसोर्स, इंप्लॉय लोग तो काम करते हैं ना, उनके बारे में सोचना, सोशल और रिलेशनशिप, सबके साथ रिलेशनशिप बनाकर रखना, और नेचुरल प्रोटेक्शन ऑफ एनवायरमेंट, वेदर यू से कार्बन एमिशन, रिसाइकलिंग, जो आपको बोलना है, ये सारी चीजें कॉमन सेंस है, अपने आप डेवलप करना है, कहीं से नहीं पढ़ना है। बिकॉज APM SBL में जब ये सब आएगा तो इट विल बी बेस्ड ऑन अ पर्टिकुलर सिनेरियो, आपको उसमें से एग्जांपल निकाल के लिखना होगा, नॉट दैट यू कैन राइट इन अ जनरली। जनरल आपको जो मालूम है, फिर सिनेरियो। अभी यहां पर तो आपको खाली बस इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग क्या है 2-3 पैराग्राफ जानना है बस। लेकिन जब आप APM और SBL में अभी जाओगे सुदीप्ता, देन ये बहुत बड़ा बड़ा बन जाएगा। इट इज देयर, दिस इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग इज देयर इन इंटायर सिलेबस, सब जगह। प्रैक्टिकल लाइफ में कब आएगा मालूम नहीं है, बट इट इज देयर इन द इंटायर सिलेबस एवरीवेयर, वेदर यू टॉक ऑफ इंडियन कोर्सेस ऑल्सो। मान लीजिए आप लोगों ने 5-6 साल पहले एग्जाम दिया है, अभी सब इंडियन कोर्सेस में सब जगह इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग है, सब जगह एवरीवेयर। बट ये कोई टेक्निकल चीज नहीं है कि आपको IFRS जानना है, रूल्स जानना है, ये बिकॉज आप अगर इंटीग्रेटेड रिपोर्टिंग एग्जैक्टली जो राइटअप है गूगल से डाउनलोड करके पढ़ेंगे, अच्छा नहीं लगेगा वो। इट इज वेरी टेक्निकल, वे रिटन, इट इज वेरी कॉमन सेंस। आदमी कॉमन बनना है ऐसा चीज पढ़ने के लिए, नहीं तो उसको टेंशन ज्यादा होएगा। ठीक है, दिस इज आंसर, सॉरी। सो वी डिड 6 and 7, 1 more, उसके बाद ब्रेक लेंगे। 8 नंबर, व्हाट इज द एरिया ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन? द एरिया ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन, पता नहीं यार, ऐसे नहीं समझ में आ रहा है। लेट्स सी। P, a public limited company, operates in the fashion industry and has a financial year end of 31st May 2016. Fashion industry, ठीक है। The company sells its products in department stores through the world, which is normally the fashion industry do. P insists on creating its own selling areas within the department stores, which are called model areas. डिपार्टमेंटल स्टोर में हमारा एरिया अलग रहेगा, which are called model areas. P is allocated space in the department store where it can display and market its fashion goods. P is allocated space in the departmental store where it can display and market its fashion goods. ठीक है। The company feels that this helps to promote its merchandise. P pays for all the cost of the model areas including design, decoration, construction. ठीक है। The areas are used for approximately 2 years, after which the company has to dismantle the model areas. 2 साल बाद एरिया खत्म, ठीक है। The areas are used for after which the company had to dismantle. Dismantling cost लगेगा. The cost of dismantling the model areas are normally 20% of the original construction cost, and the elements of the area are worthless when dismantled. The current accounting practice followed by P is to charge the full cost of the model areas against profit and loss in the year when the area is dismantled. Whatever the dismantling cost, we are charging to PL account. The accumulated cost of model area shown in the statement of financial position is 20 million. The company has estimated the average age of the model area is 8 months at 31st May 2016. 20 million का 8 months अभी बाकी है. Purchase of buddocks. I think it is IS 16, 36, 38. ये सब लग रहा है, देखते हैं. Purchase of buddocks. P acquired 100% of sports goods and clothing manufacturer buddocks. Take over ये तो हो गया. A private limited company, and on 1st June 2015, P incurred legal fees of 2 million in respect of acquisition. P incurred legal fees of 2 million in respect of the acquisition. P intends to develop its own brand of sports clothing, which it will sell in the department store. The shareholder of buddocks valued the company at 125 million based upon profit forecast, which assumed a significant growth in the demand for the buddocks brand name. P had taken a more conservative view of the value of the company and estimated fair value to be in the region of 108 to 120 million, of which 20 million relates to the brand name buddocks. P is only prepared to pay the full price if the profits from the sale of buddocks clothing and sports goods reach the forecast levels. The agreed purchase price was 100 million plus 2 potential further payments. The first 10 million in 2 years on 31st May 2000. The agreed purchase price 100 million plus 2 potential further payments. The first being 10 million in 2 years on 31st May 2017. This is a guaranteed payment of 10 million in cash with no performance condition. This is a guaranteed payment of 10 million in cash with no performance condition. The first being 10 million into it. This is guaranteed payment. The second payment is contingent on certain profit targets. At the date of acquisition, it was assessed that the fair value of such consideration is 5 million. This is, you can say, purchase of an organization, including their brand. There is negotiation in the payment and all that. Okay. Research and development. After the acquisition of buddocks, P started developing its own sports clothing brand, Pro. The expenditure in the period to 31st May 2016 are as follows. After the acquisition of buddocks, that means the company we acquired, P started developing its own sports clothing brand, Pro. The expenditure in the period to 31st May are 1st June to 31st August, research to the extent of market. September 2015, prototype clothing and goods design. 1st December to 31st January, employee cost in refinement of the products. 1st February to 30th April, development work undertaken to finalize design of the product. 1st May to 31st May, production and launch of the product. R&D खर्चे के लिए बोल रहे हैं. The cost of the production and the launch of the product include cost of upgrading the existing machinery, market research cost, and staff training. The cost of production and launch of products. Which one? This 6 they are saying breakup. 6 ka breakup. Upgrading the existing machinery 3 million. Market research 2 million. Staff training cost 1 million. Currently an intangible asset of 20 million is shown in the financial statement. For the timing, 20 million entire is an intangible asset. P owns a number of prestigious apartments which it leases to famous persons who are under a contract of employment to promote its fashion clothing. P owns a number of prestigious apartments which it leases to famous persons who are under a contract of employment to promote its fashion clothing. The apartments are let at below the market rate. The lease terms are short and are normally for 6 months. The lease terminate when the contracts for promoting the clothing terminate. P wishes to account for the apartments as investment properties with the difference between the market rate and the actual rental charge to recognized as an employee benefit expense. P wishes to account for the apartment as investment properties, with the difference between the market rate and the actual rate charged to be recognized as an employee benefit expense. Assume a discount rate of 5.55% where necessary. Discuss how the above following should be dealt with in the financial statement of P for the year ended 31st May 2016 under International Financial Reporting Standards. Discuss how the following items should be dealt with: the model area, the purchase of beddocks, the research and development, the apartments. ठीक है, कौन सा IAS IFRS relevant है? One by one. In the first one, which IAS IFRS they are talking about? क्या भूल रहे हैं ये लोग? Can we say IAS 16? Because IAS 16 says that any asset will be classified as a non-current asset when it is going to be used in the business activities, maybe manufacturing, admin, selling, and which are going to be used for more than 1 year, and it is going to give economic benefits to the organization. The control over the assets will be of the organization. So if we correlate with that definition, then in that case it is going to be used for 2 years. 2 years इन्होंने बोला है, 2 years after, so more than 1 year. At the same time, it is going to give us economic benefits by selling our clothes in a designated area for 2 years. It is, you can say, basically in the sales administration selling function, it will help. So we should be recognizing as an asset under non-current asset and should be depreciating in 2 years. But then the question comes relating to dismantling expenditures. When at the time of getting a control over the asset, we know that at the end of the life of the asset, there will be some expenditure to dismantle, which we know already. Maybe we don't know the exact amount. We can estimate, but we know. Then we say that that is also the part of the asset as cost as per IAS 16. So the dismantling expenditures present value should be added to the asset value, should be added to the value of the model area, and then it will be depreciated in 2 years. Now the dismantling cost present value will be the liability also. So that will be unwind up by including the interest. Every year the finance cost need to be recorded, and then the unwinding, the total value after 2 years will be compared with the actual expenditure of dismantling. The difference will be recorded in PL account. So we have recorded the dismantling expenditures up till now in the PL account. That was not correct, because that is not a revenue expenditure. That is a part of IAS 16 asset value only. So you can say that we need to rectify our financials for earlier year also, because if there is a change, error, rectification of errors, then retrospective effects should be given. So last year comparative figures and before that the retained earning need to be adjusted. और इसके अलावा कोई फिगर्स तो दिया नहीं है, खाली यही दिया है 20 million. इसमें डेप्रिसिएशन वगैरह कुछ निकाल सकते हैं क्या? वी कैन. नो फिगर्स आर गिवन. On 31st May, this is the figure. The company has estimated average age of the model areas is 8 months at 31st May. That I know. But can we calculate any depreciation based on this for the current year? You will say 8 months depreciation. Where you will charge? Yes, Jensen.
Sir, the value what is given does not include, I think it does not include the dismantling cost.
So that we can include, but we don't know the figure. So we can't do any calculation for that because they have not given anything. So we can just say that this would be included and then the depreciation will be charged on them. But I mean to say that with 8 months and 20 million, can we do any further calculation? The accumulated cost of model area shown in the statement of financial position is 20 million. The company has estimated that the average age of the model areas is 8 months at 31st May 2016. You cannot say that. Yes.
That means there was a depreciation for 16 months done on that.
If you consider 24 months story. So you want to say that whatever the dismantling expenditures, once they will capitalize, then 16 months depreciation will be done on them. That you can write, yes.
After that, this value has arrived at 20 million. So based on that, we will be able to calculate the depreciation.
What you are saying, man, no. This figure is saying that accumulated cost of model area shown on the statement of financial position 20 million. This does not have any relationship with the dismantling expenditures. They are saying that when you are developing that asset model area, then whatever the model area expenditure you have incurred, out of that the asset value 20 million is still there. And they are saying that this asset value life is 8 months is still left. Now relating to dismantling, nothing given the values and all that. So you can say that the dismantling expenditure, whatever value, present value will come, you will depreciate for 16 months and then balance value will be added in 20 million. But relating to 20 million and 8 months, we can't do any calculation. That I am thinking. Mini, what do you say? What do you think? Others also.
I think the 8 months is not relevant here.
That is I am saying. Okay, they are giving the information 8 months, but what we will do with this? What we can do?
20 million is the cost, the accumulated cost, because it says the company portion pays for all costs of model areas, including design, decoration, and construction costs. So this 20 million is the accumulated cost incurred to develop that model areas.
Yes.
And then it says 20% of the original cost construction cost is the dismantling cost.
Where 20%? Where?
The cost of dismantling the model areas are normally 20% of the original cost.
Oh, okay. Then we can use the cost of dismantling the model areas are normally 20% of the original construction cost. And the elements of the area are worthless when. So you can say that 20 million into 20%, 4 million.
Correct.
So the values would be 24.
24 million.
Yes.
Divided by 2 years, that is 24 months with no and the elements of the area are worthless when dismantled. So no residual value.
No residual value. So 24 million will be depreciated in 24 months. So in the current year, how much depreciation we will charge?
1 million.
How come?
Only 1 year, no? This is 31st May is the year end, right?
Then why they are saying 8 months story? The company has estimated that the average age of the model area is 8 months at 31st May.
Okay. So that is what has happened is this construction has happened across the entire
Year. Yes.
So average period of utilization during the year is not full 12 months, but it's only 8 months.
So you can say that it is 24 divided by 24 into 8. That we can say.
Correct.
Yes. 20 million is the cost. This is correct. Plus 20% of 20 million is 24. 24 has a life of 24 months. Out of that, in the current year, the average life utilized is 8 months. So 24 divided by 24 into 8 will be the depreciation. And on the 4 million, there will be interest charge also. There will be present value of 4 million also we need to consider. Because 4 million ka present value, for present value calculation. Oh, no. Further calculation.
Because it's a percentage, right?
They have given the discount rate 5% we can use everywhere.
Where
There's,
is it?
ah.
So here is it necessary?
No, but the amount you will incur 20% when? When you will dismantle. And you will dismantle after 2 years. So you will incur 20 into 20%, which is 4, after 2 years. You need to record the value now. So 4 divided by 1.055 divided by 1.055. Whatever the value will come, that will be added with the asset value. And then you will say that the depreciation for the current year divided by 24 multiplied by 8. And then whatever the present value will come on that at the rate of 5.5%, there will be interest cost for the year also. Because they are saying 20% will be the estimated cost after 2 years when you dismantle. But presently when you are recording the asset, that should be the present value of the dismantling cost. For that they have given below in the last line, for everywhere wherever a discounting need to be done, use 5.5%. So some calculation can be done here. But इतना घुमा के लिखा है समझ में नहीं आ रहा था, sorry.
Sir, the liability also has to be recorded with regard to
The liability, when you calculate present value of 4 million, say it is coming 3 million. So what is the entry? Asset account debit, credit, provision for dismantling cost. That is a liability. That 3 million will be made 4 million in 2 years after adding interest. Like the finance cost example. The finance, yeah. The borrowing example, same. This is the same story. We will record first year interest, credit, liability, provision, then second year interest, credit, liability. So it will become 4 million. Now at the end of 2 years, whether 4 million will be the expense less or more, that we don't know. We will compare with 4 million, difference will be going to PL. But this is correct कि मैं भी नहीं सोच पा रहा था कि यहाँ calculation क्या करें. So I was not looking at 20% figure. 20% is 4. 4 का present value will be added with 20. That will be depreciated in 2 years, current year 8 months. And the liability which is credited on that liability, there will be interest charge for the current year. Interest भी उसके ऊपर आएगा 8 months का. On whatever is the present value into 5.5% into 8 by 12. Whatever the figure will come. So this is application of IAS 16 with the dismantling cost with some calculations. Now this is what? Which IAS IFRS application is this? Intangible asset. सोच लीजिए. Port chain acquired 100% of sports goods and clothing manufacturer. You are acquiring a whole company.
Acquisition.
Yes. So this is parent subsidiary, माने IFRS 10 or this is IFRS 3 business combination only. 3. It is not 10 because we are not purchasing shares. We are acquiring another company. When we acquire any company, the rule says that whatever consideration we are giving to the shareholders of that company, the consideration may be cash, maybe shares, maybe assets, maybe deferred, maybe contingent. All the consideration fair value need to be calculated. That will be compared with the fair value of the net assets acquired. And then extra which we are giving will be treated as goodwill. So we are acquiring a sports goods manufacturer. The legal expenditure 2 million will not be given to the owner of the other company. The legal expenditure will be charged to PL account. P intends to develop its own brands. वो सब होने दीजिए the shareholder. What we are going to pay them? We are paying 100 now.
2 million legal fees is in connection to the acquisition, right?
But that will not be treated as a part of the, I mean to say asset value. Because IFRS 3 says that whatever you are paying to the owners of the other organization shareholder, that is only treated as a purchase consideration.
Yeah, not
What?
purchase consideration, but this will be the value of the total. Okay, 2 million will go as P&L.
No. Specific guidelines by IFRS 3. If it is a subsidiary or if it is not a subsidiary acquisition of a business, whatever you are giving to the shareholders of the owners of the other organization, that is only the purchase consideration. incidental expenditure to lawyer, legal expenditure, this, that. Since they are not given to the owners of the other organization, they are not treated as a part of purchase consideration. They will be treated as a revenue expenditure. IFRS 3 is specifically saying that. So this 2 million, I understand, that is for purchasing a business. But this 2 million you are not giving to the owners of the other business. So this 2 million cannot be treated as a part of purchase consideration. Because business combination accounting, IFRS 3, says that whenever you acquire any business or a subsidiary, the consideration given to the shareholder or the owners of the other company are only the purchase consideration. Getting? So this 2 million as a general logic is okay, is a value of assets, but this is not asset. IFRS 3 business combination says that. So we are saying that for acquiring that other organization, we are paying 100 million now, plus 10 million after 2 years. So 10 million present value by 1.05 by 1.05. And there will be there is a guaranteed payment of 10 million with no performance. The second is the fair value of that is 5. So the total payment will be 100 plus 10 million present value in 2 years and plus 5 million. Fair value given. That whether they will be able to achieve the profit target or not, this is deferred consideration. Sorry, this is contingent consideration, this is deferred consideration, and this is actual you are paying now. These are the total consideration given to acquire the business. They will be compared with the net assets of the company. The net assets are identifiable assets. Identifiable assets are not only those assets which are there in their balance sheet, but which may not be there, but which can be identified, a fair value can be identified. And whatever we will pay extra, then that is called as goodwill. So I don't know their identified assets value. Here we can calculate the present value of the consideration. 10 ka present value, 5 plus 100. We can say this is the cost of acquisition. And this will be compared with the identified assets fair value. And if we are paying more, then that will be treated as goodwill. So once after acquisition, we will record the consideration given as a deduction from cash. The consideration which will be given later, they will be recorded in the liability. And the assets and all that which we got from other organization will become our assets. And whatever extra consideration we are giving, that will be recorded as a goodwill. This is IFRS 3 business combination. आपको कंसिडरेशन के बारे में लिखना है, नेट एसेट्स और गुडविल लिखना है. 2 मिलियन को एसेट्स नहीं दिखा सकते. 2 मिलियन विल बी रिकॉर्डेड इन पीएल अकाउंट एज एन एक्सपेंस. इन सब का क्या करना? यस
सर, ये 2 मिलियन जो इंसिडेंटल एक्सपेंस है, ये इन्वेस्टमेंट में तो ऐड होगा ना पेरेंट कंपनी के?
नहीं होएगा.
ये गुडविल के कैलकुलेशन में नहीं होगा, बट इन्वेस्टमेंट की वैल्यू में तो ऐड.
माने आप बोलेंगे स्टैंड अलोन फिनेंशियल्स, ऐसे तो यहाँ सब्सिडी नहीं चल रहा है. यहाँ तो हम लोग उस कंपनी को खरीद लिए, सेपरेट लीगल एग्जिस्टेंस उसका नहीं है. लेकिन अगर आप बोलेंगे कि मैं नॉर्मली इन्वेस्टमेंट बोलूंगी, तो ये 2 मिलियन इन्वेस्टमेंट स्टैंड अलोन में आता है. लेकिन यहां तो पेरेंट सब्सिडी नहीं चल रहा है ना, यहां तो आप इन्वेस्टमेंट दिखाओगे ही नहीं. यहां तो आप उसका सारा एसेट्स आपका एसेट्स हो गया, आपने जो कंसिडरेशन दिया वो कैश से माइनस हो गया, और जो एक्स्ट्रा पैसा दिया वो गुडविल बन गया. तो अब अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट में इसको दिखाओगे फिर तो ये गुडविल में चला जाएगा ना. आप अगर ये जो फिगर्स है ये तीनों और इसके साथ 2 को जोड़ दोगे और फिर आप नेट एसेट्स, तब तो फिर इसको आप गुडविल बना रहे हो. लेकिन इसको गुडविल नहीं बना सकते. जो भी इंसिडेंटल एक्सपेंडिचर बिजनेस एक्वायर करने में लगेगा, which is not given to the owners of the other organization, they cannot be treated as a part of goodwill.
What is the significance of 125 million?
मैं भी वही सोच रहा हूं. That is I was asking, but where?
Because that says that is the fair value of one of the company according to the shareholders of B.
Actually, suppose you want to sell your assets at 100. I am saying that I will buy at 90. So now you want to sell at 100 and I am not buying at 100. So there the transaction not possible. So the sellers of the company are saying that we want 125. But then after the negotiation, the fixed settlement is this. So we are not concerned with these values. I am thinking. If the seller wants that, we will be wanting this. Then why they are ready to sell at this price?
And there is no question of goodwill, no here. That is what I was thinking.
Goodwill will be there. We don't know the value.
Calculate goodwill.
We are not calculating. We are just saying that whatever the consideration fair value is there will be compared with the fair value of the net assets acquired, and extra consideration given will be treated as goodwill. We are not calculating anything because we have not been given the net assets value. आप इसको net assets value तो नहीं बोल सकते हैं क्या? Valued the company based upon the profit forecast. Yeah, this is not assets value. So based on profit forecast, we can't say that it is the assets value of the other company, fair value of assets. You can say, Priyanka is also correct. Fair valuation, there are 3 levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1, when the fair value normally known from the market, established market. Level 2 not established, but maybe here and there some adjustment can be done. Level 3, there is no observable input. So this is level 3 input, unobservable input. Somebody saying that based on this, based on profit forecast, somebody saying this. So unobservable input are used to do the fair valuation. But ultimately with the contract finished at this. So we can say that the fair value of acquisition, whatever consideration we are giving, that is the value. You are correct, Priyanka, level 3 knowledge, but then level 3 knowledge, the valuation they are deriving. And whenever there is a business acquisition, it has to be level 3 knowledge only. Because with the level 1 and level 2, we can't value any company. फिर भी इसके बारे में ये सब देखना होगा कि इनका कोई यूज है क्या, फीलिंग अभी भी नहीं आ रहा है. I don't think so. It is just given as a googly. The information from here is only relevant. These are just, the sellers are saying that we want this and that. And then the buyer is saying that this is the range. Huh?
So what is the question? What we need to do on this particular?
Nothing. They have written just one line. For all these transactions, how the treatment will be done. That's all. Discuss how the following items should be dealt with in the financial statement in the international financial reporting standards. They are not saying you need to analyze which IFRS is relevant and say the treatment that way. Open-ended question.
5 million is, how does that come in?
For any contingent consideration,
It was assessed as the fair value of such consideration was 5 million.
yes, based on probability or something. Sometimes the
That is the second contingent payment.
this is fixed payment, deferred. Because 10 million you have to pay. There are 3 payments.
Price is 100 million plus 2 potential for the payments.
I am saying.
In that, the first being 10 million in 2 years.
This is guaranteed payment.
In cash.
This is guaranteed payment.
Yeah. The second payment is a contingent on certain profit targets. At the date of acquisition, it was assessed that the fair value of such consideration was 5 million. So basically, what we have to recognize is 100 plus 10 plus 5, isn't it?
10 ka present value. Because you will be paying this 10 after 2 years.
After 1 year.
2 years.
Because 10 million in 2 years. Yeah, sorry.
This 10 million is a guaranteed payment. So we see there are 2 types of payment. One is deferred, one is contingent. I am saying that this payment is deferred payment. This is not contingent. But this payment is a contingent payment. So for contingent payment, fair value will be given in the question. In practical life, contingent payment fair value is calculated based on probability. What is the probability that they will generate this much profit so that we will be paying this money? So sometimes in the question they give you the 10 million, they say 50% chance. So 10 into 50%, you calculate 5. Here 5 is directly given. So one is the direct payment done. The other is deferred payment. and the third is contingent payment.
So it's 100 plus 5 plus present value of 10
10,
million.
yes. And then that will be compared with the net assets fair value. If the consideration given is greater than the net assets fair value, then the difference will be goodwill. If it is less, then it is a gain on bargain purchase, which we were discussing at the beginning. This is not consolidation part, but this is related with IFRS 3 only. है ना? लेकिन फिर भी हम लोग को ये देखना होगा whether they are writing something on this, why they have given this. That we need to check. I am not thinking any relevance of that, because when you are paying this, this is your value. Whatever the seller is saying, I am not paying that, so why I will record that? But still, why they have given those values, we will check. This third one is not have any problem because it is purely IS 38, research and development expenditures. Research expenditures are original or new findings relating to something. Till the time it is not successful, till the time we don't know that the surety of economic benefits will be there, we charge all research expenditure in PL account, because normally any asset will be recognized as a non-current asset when there is economic benefits you can realize. So research expenditure is not going to give you any economic benefit. There is no surety you will be able to generate any income. So research expenditure are charged to PL account. But the development expenditure can be capitalized when certain conditions are fulfilled. First of all, you have all the resources to develop. It is technically feasible. You have the, you can say, you can estimate whatever the total expenditures in the development. It is economically viable that the further benefit should be greater than the further expenditures. अब उतना नहीं याद है 6 condition यार. You say all the 6 condition. Pirate. Acha. Say. I don't remember like that, as I said.
Sir, I used to remember as a pirate.
Okay.
For probability of completion of this.
ठीक है.
For intention to complete.
हाँ.
PIR. R is resources are available.
हाँ.
PIRA. Ability to complete the asset.
हाँ.
T is technically feasible. And last RATES expenditure are reliably measured.
Actually, when we read these 6 points, I am personally saying, not about anyone. Normally, if somebody will say that it is technically feasible, and when you are using other points, which is P and I, don't you think so they are intermingled with each other? भाई टेक्निकली फिजिबल होगा तभी तो हम करेंगे ना. इंटेंशन तो तभी आएगा when it is technically feasible. Maybe those who are writing, they are better knowledgeable than us. But I found that the points are intermingled. No.
I find that why they are saying technically feasible, because their prototype is already successful. So now they are making it for the actual project.
Okay. And then why they are saying P and I separately?
No answer, sir.
You understand. For that reason, it is difficult to remember 6 points like that. Because if you say that I am Prakash Saraf, I am teaching in Kolkata, I am teaching online, it's the same thing यार. यार क्या है कोई इंग्लिश बनाता है यार, समझ में नहीं आता है. So for that reason, since it is like that type of points, similarly in IFRS 5, the assets should be available, present condition for sale. You should be marketing the assets at the correct value. अरे भाई दोनों एक ही तो है यार, क्या बात कर रहा है अलग अलग यार. So I mean to say that I don't able to remember like that, like you have remembered PIRAT. It's okay for exam. But normally I need to understand that if I am doing something as a development, whether I can do this, whether I have money and resources to do that, whether I will be able to get the economic benefit, whether it is feasible. Because if these things are not there, then the development is not going to give me economic benefit. And when there is no economic benefit, there is no asset. At the same time, IS 38 says that specifically these expenditures cannot be capitalized. What are? Any marketing expenditures, any training of the staff, they are not treated as development expenditure. marketing, training and all that, because on training there is no control. If you train somebody, he can leave the organization, you can't do anything. Marketing will give you income. If I will do Google AdWords or any social media marketing, is there guarantee that I will be getting the students? Nothing like that, man. So marketing can never be capitalized. So exclude marketing and exclude training expenditures from development expenditures. So with that perspective, what are the expenditures which we can capitalize? June to 31st research, normally charged to PL. 1st September prototype clothing and goods design. Can we say this is capital expenditure? The development starts. Can we say? लगता तो है क्योंकि prototype मतलब sample. So once you manufacture the sample, you will be able to manufacture more and more. Let's say. And now this one, when we do a question, सामने दिखता नहीं है ना तो और समझ में नहीं आता. We need to interpret from the English. Sometimes I confuse with the English language whether it's development or not. No problem. 1st December to 31st January, employee cost in refinement of the products. Whether this labor cost to develop is a development money, I mean to say intangible asset. Then 1st February to 30th April, development work undertaken to finalize. Development already written. Then 1st May to 30, production and launch of product. In this 6th, they have given the breakup. In 6th, they have given the breakup that it is market research and staff training. Ignore these 3. 2 and 1 gone. So it is only machinery development 3 million. That's only the cost. So you can see that out of 20 million, 3 gone here and 3 gone here. Out of 20 million, 6 million should be charged as a research and balance 14 million will be capitalized. Whether we will start amortization on 14 million? No.
Until economic benefits.
Yes. Until they are ready to give us the economic benefits. Maybe we are not getting the economic benefit, doesn't matter. Until they are not ready for use for generating income. Till that time, they will be remain capitalized. And once they are ready, then in that case, we will start amortizing. So यहाँ पर कैपिटल, रेवेन्यू, रिसर्च, डेवलपमेंट ये सब बोलना है और उसके बाद बाइफर्केशन करके बताना है. It is simple. The third one. The fourth one. Prochain owns a number of prestigious apartments which it leases to famous persons who are under a contract of employment to promote its fashion clothing. यहाँ पर किसको अपार्टमेंट दिए हैं? जिसके साथ हमारा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट है. इवन दो दे आर फेमस पर्सन, बट वी हैव अ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ऑफ एम्प्लॉयमेंट. दैट मीन्स द अपार्टमेंट्स आर गिवन ऑन रेंट टू एम्प्लॉइज. बेसिकली द अपार्टमेंट आर लेट एट बिलो द मार्केट रेट. एम्प्लॉय लोग को मान लीजिए द रेंट इज 10,000, वी हैव गिवन ऑन 8,000. Sample cost as per IS 16 amendment to be taken to PL. But that was in IS 16 now. This is relating to IS 38. If you purchase any asset and you do sample manufacturing, then it's other thing, sir. But this is not IS 16. This is you are developing something. In the development, the prototype clothing and all that should be treated as an asset. That is a specific development in IS 16. You purchase a machine, before installing, before completion, you do some sample manufacturing, then it's a revenue expenditure. But this is not that. What do you think, Surojit?
That's right. In IS 16, when you do
Yes.
it is purely to, once the production is completed,
Yes.
you do sampling to see whether it is working or not.
Yeah.
But here it is
Development. So development expenditure. Yeah.
to start the development itself, you have to do a prototype.
Yes.
This is not exactly.
This is not exactly what is there in IS 16. Yes. The apartment are let below the market rate. So 10,000 is the rate we are given to employee for 8,000. The lease terms are short and are normally for 6 months. The leases terminate when the contract for promoting the clothing terminate. P wishes to account for the apartment as investment properties. You can't record investment properties. Because in the investment properties, IAS 40 specifically written, if the property is given to subsidiary, to a branch, on rental, or to staff, those who are working, that is your business use. And if it is a business use, it cannot fall in the investment property. It is an IAS 16 property only, with the difference between the market rate and the actual rental charged to be recognized as employee business benefit expense. Can we? We can't. कि भाई 10,000 के बदले 8,000 में दे रहे हैं, हम लोग बोलेंगे 2,000 को employee benefit expense. You just need to record whatever 8,000 you are receiving as a rental income. Business income only, because given to employee, but you can't record the balance 2,000 as an employee benefit expense. I am thinking that if you record 10,000 income and then you record 2,000 employee benefit expense, बात तो बराबर है यार. There is no difference. If you record 8,000, just hypothetically I am taking example, 10,000 is the normal rental, you are charging from employee 8,000. So if you record 10,000 income, you want to record 2,000 employee benefit expense. Ultimately income is net 8,000 only. क्या फायदा होएगा उससे? We should be recognizing only 8,000, that's the business income. Ultimately, that is not going to affect this 2,000 anyway. Yeah. We cannot write 8,000. That is just my hypothetical example. We will say that whatever rent we are receiving from the employee, that is business income, because that is given to the employee only with whom we have the contract. There is no point that we can record the difference between the normal and that as a business expense. That we can't record. But what is the IAS IFRS? IAS 16 we can say, and IAS 40 not applicable. That is the two IAS applicable here. This is not an investment property because given to employee. So if it is any property which is, you can say, used for business purpose, then it cannot be treated as investment property. Since it is given to employee only for the business purpose, then in that case it is IAS 16 only. उतना ही ज्यादा तो कुछ लिखना नहीं है. And you cannot record this employee benefit as an expense. Whatever the difference in the rent, that we cannot record as an expense. I need to see here how they are, even this is 4 marks only, last one. But फिर भी एक यहाँ पर, and in this middle one, what they are writing about these figures, that we need to check. The cost of model areas should be accounted for as property, plant, equipment in accordance with IAS 16. Property, plant, equipment tangible that are held for use in the production supply. They are writing. The model areas meet the definition because they are used in more than one accounting period. Customers will be able to view the fashion goods. The cost of model are should be depreciated over their expected life. P after initial recognition could use the cost model, revaluation model, measurement of, however the fair valuation will be very difficult to determine. जबरदस्ती लिख रहा है ये, ठीक है. P has an obligation to dismantle the model areas after 2 years. The company should assess whether it has a present obligation as a result of past event. The assessment should be carried out in accordance with this. Why they are writing this? Maybe I will not cancel the model after 2 years. I will continue. Maybe I will cancel earlier. There is no point writing IAS 37, but they are writing. The provision recognized should be 3.6 million. That is present value, and this should be added to the construction cost. The asset would be depreciated with accumulated depreciation divided by 24 into 8. The discount on the provision giving rise to 0.13 million for 8 months, the provision therefore this. So यहाँ पर कुछ नहीं लिखा उसके बारे में. We were correct. All those values 125 and all that are googly. IFRS 3 business combination requires that purchase consideration transfer to obtain control over a subsidy. Subsidy कहाँ है, लेकिन ये तो नहीं लिखा हुआ है. फिर भी चलिए. This includes any share consideration, deferred consideration, contingent consideration. Legal and professional costs must be expensed to the statement of PL. Accordingly, legal fee 2 million not part of the cost of investment. Vaisali, है ना? The cash payment of 100 million should be recognized as part of the cost of investment. The deferred payment 9 million, that is 10 divided by 1.05 square, with a corresponding credit to liability. The discount on the liability will unwound, interest निकालते जाएंगे. The contingent consideration is 5 million. So corresponding figure is coming this. With regard to the change in the fair value of any contingent consideration after the acquisition, if this is basically what? Suppose presently we have estimated fair value of contingent consideration is this. But suppose there are some changes happen, they will be able to generate income or not. We are more sure. That is not a pre-acquisition adjustment. That is a post-acquisition adjustment. But if when we estimated fair value, we did some mistake and we realize later on that this would be the fair value, then it will be adjusting the fair value for acquisition. Then it will be adjusting the goodwill that they are writing, that I have not said. That is also a clause in IFRS. With regard to change in the fair value of any contingent consideration after the acquisition date, if the change is due to additional information after the acquisition date that affects the facts or circumstances as they existed on the acquisition date, this is treated as remeasurement period adjustment, and the liability goodwill are remeasured. However, what is more likely is the changes are more prospective. They are not that related with the pre-acquisition, and it will be recorded in PL. The acquirer is required to recognize separately an intangible asset of acquiring company at the acquisition date if it meets the definition, which I said, identifiable intangible assets. Maybe not there in the balance sheet of subsidiary, but they will be accounted for. Fair value, as far as the brand name appears to be capable of reliable measurement, then it should be recognized separately. 20 million. They are just saying that since they have given out of 125 some values, there was some brand value of 20. If it can be reliably measured, then it will not be goodwill, it will be brand value. In place of writing this, you can just say any asset which is not there in the subsidiary balance sheet, but those assets have the fair value. They can be reliably measured. They satisfy the IS 36 conditions, then 38 conditions. Then they will be recorded separately as an asset, and then the balance consideration extra will be treated as goodwill, because goodwill is unidentifiable intangible asset. IS 38 intangible assets provide guidance on the recognition of generally internally generated intangible assets, particularly on the expenditure on R&D. During the research phase, a project is not deemed to be far enough advanced for an entity to be able to demonstrate that it is probable that economic benefits will be generated. Therefore, all expenditure incurred during this phase are charged to PL. Where economic benefits are realistically be expected to be generated from development, then an intangible asset can be recognized. So 6 points pirate, 6 points correct here. Technically feasible, intention to complete, the ability to use or sell the intangible asset. PIR, R is not coming, ability to use. Generation of probable future economic benefits. Availability of adequate technical feasibility and other resources to complete. Ability to reliably measure the expenditure. ठीक है, मेरे को ऐसे याद है, मोटा मोटी ध्यान देता है. For a company to recognize an intangible asset, the statement of financial position, it should be probable that expected future economic benefits generated from the asset will flow to the entity, and the cost of the asset should be capable of reliably measured. Costs that should be recognized as part of intangible asset are those that are directly attributable to preparing the asset for its intended use. These costs will include employee cost, design cost. Work undertaken to establish whether there is a market for product is deemed not to be directly attributable to bringing the asset. For that reason, marketing costs are not the part of the asset. Staff training costs are specifically excluded because there is no control. The cost of upgrading the existing machinery can be capitalized. Property, plant and equipment. Upgrading the machinery is IS 16, not 36. IS 36 impairment of assets will be used to establish whether future economic benefits are. यानी कि यहाँ पर थोड़ा सा IS 16 में भी जाएगा. The research gone to PL, prototype clothing, intangible asset, employee cost, development cost. Machinery further development is IS 16, but then market research training cost gone to PL. So total 14 is capitalized, but IS 38 and IS 16. There is an element of subjectivity involved in determining the value of intangible asset to arise from aware expenditure. It is up to the company to demonstrate that the recognition criteria are met. In this case, it would appear that company would recognize 11 million. The project had advanced to a stage which is probable that future economic benefits will arise. The last one is only 4 marks के लिए थोड़ा सा. The apartments are occupied by persons who are contracted to the company and are especially employee. The apartment should therefore be classified as property, plant, equipment, IS 16. The apartment could be measured using cost or revaluation model. The difference between market rate and this cannot be recognized as employee expense. जो बोले वही और कुछ है नहीं उसमें. 4 marks के लिए इतना ही लिखना है. But on which point they are giving 1 mark. Suppose occupied by the employee, focusing on this. So this is business purpose. This is not investment property. Focusing on this. And I have not said cost or revaluation model बोलना चाहिए. Whether it's IS 16 or whether it's IS 40, we can say that cost or revaluation model both are applicable. So वो लिखना चाहिए, नहीं तो कोई नंबर एक नंबर उस पे नहीं मिलेगा. And saying that this is not recorded as employee expense, that cannot be recorded, that is also 1 marks. यहाँ breakup नहीं है, but in exam breakup will be there to the examiner when the examiner will be giving marks to the students on which point, कहाँ पर नंबर मिलेगा, ये examiner बोलेगा. जैसे मैंने पहले भी बोला कि मैं जब आपको नंबर दूंगा तो ये पॉइंट्स को देखकर दूंगा, कोई हवा में नहीं दे रहा हूं. द मार्क्स आर फिक्स्ड फॉर द स्टूडेंट्स. इट इज नॉट बेस्ड ऑन कि मैं दूंगा आपको कोई और नहीं देगा, कोई और देगा मैं नहीं दूंगा, ऐसा नहीं है. सम सब्जेक्टिविटी स्लाइटली 1 or 2 marks, 3 marks, बस उससे ज्यादा सब्जेक्टिविटी नहीं है मार्किंग में. सो इफ somebody is scoring 60, he may be scoring 57, 58, 61, 62, but 60 he cannot score 30. If somebody is scoring 30, he cannot challenge the institute, I should be getting 60, 50. No. Because एकदम marking guidelines fixed है. That is followed by the examiner, which you need to follow when you are checking your own answers. Not the English language. You must have realized up till now, कोई भी ये language कैसे लिख देगा यार, कैसे कुछ भी पढ़ लेगा, कैसे लिख देगा ये language. Impossible है इस जन्म में लिखना. मेरे ख्याल से ब्रेक लेते हैं अब. It is 16:48, say 4:50. So meeting at 5:15, taking 20-25 minutes break. The major focus in that part is ethics, the current happenings, the additional performance measures, all those areas more and more given importance. Because उससे related question हर बार है. Either it is ethics, either additional performance or that. Yes, no problem. You can ask your doubts. No issue. ठीक है? So we are meeting at 5:15 again. 20-25 minutes break again. Okay? Yeah. Thank you.